Yep, this is live and not memory. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. So, with that said, happy Friday. It's actually Saturday morning now. It's 12:17 a.m. And I was kind of him-hawing around this evening about whether or not I was going to do a video because I did like 7 or 8 or 9 hours the other day and it whooped my tail. Okay. But then I'm doing my daily research thing and going through stuff. And then I'm I'm subscribed to, I don't know, like 700 different channels or something. Hey, Chloe, how are you? Yeah, Cosmic Hugs was waiting on me. Yeah. Well, I've been doing some research, Chloe, before I could do this one. But anyway, here, let me shed a little bit more light on the subject. XXXXX. Hi, how are you? Good morning, afternoon. It's morning time now. Um, it's almost 12:20, and I sort of fixed my pipe that I knocked off the table the other night and broke. And a friend of mine that I had purchased him a similar type of pipe, he broke the stem on his the other day too. We were talking about it today. They came in and visited with me for a couple hours. It was great to have them over and chat and hanging out and all that good stuff. But anyway, so when 20 comes, gonna take me a little break and see if anybody else shows up before I get hard into it. So, is that XWX? XW. I've been saying XXX. 44XW. That's a code. Yeah, it's hard to say. XWX. I will try to do that instead of XXX. You know, there are many of us conspiracy theorists, nutty people out here. And for years, we've been talking about how crazy some of these folks are, that they are. Thank you. I mean no harm, honest. I'm just I'm just a crazy old man. At 69 and a quarter, mind you, if you keep up with that joke. But I'm glad to see you back. I hope you stick around. I hope the other morning wasn't too. You asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered as straight as I could. But anyway, today, in going through the news and seeing what was going on with SCOTUS, do you believe David Ikes? Up to a point, I do. Because there are reptilian races and they have infiltrated for a long time. Many, not just the British monarchy, but, Rothschilds and other folks. But they're not all reptilians. A lot of them do some kind of weird, um, you used the word the other night, occult. Some kind of occult rituals. I will absolutely, what they are they satanic or demonic or whatever it is, that's absolutely an occult type of, I hate to use the word religion, but and yeah, there are some secret things that are done in the Vatican that are absolutely black mass kind of Luciferian or devil or whatever, however you want to put it. Um, but ain't good. Hey, Susie Q. Okay. All right. Good to see you, hear from you. Hope everything's okay. Here's the thing, XW. Each one of us, if you ever look at how the fetus is formed within the womb, we look like uh, a lizard at some point. We have tails, and then as our evolutionary stage goes, there are times when we look like a frog. We lose the tail, much like a frog does, from the tadpole tadpole stage to the frog stage with legs and stuff. And so the idea that, there are folks say, well, no, we don't. Well, just look at how every single human fetus is formed. There's a little something weird in that. I'm just saying. Now, are we all reptilians? Are we all? Well, I would say there's evidence that somehow our genetic sequence is such that it looks like we have tails when we're in the womb at certain developmental stages. So are we all reptilians or whatever? I'm not a lizard. I got a lizard friend that was living over, he lives in a house. And I did water my plants, by the way. Hey, Michelle, how are you? In my conversation the other morning, I was like, I got this lizard that lives over here, and Barry, he's got a lizard outside, and but anyway, so lizards seem to be on the thing. One of the things about like David Icke, there's a lot of good stuff that he says about humanity and our changes. And hey, Miss Pearl, how are you this Saturday morning? Well, actually, it's still Friday night where you're at. Y'all, a lot of you folks is in the middle there. Um, but there's a lot of good stuff that David Icke says. Now, so much about the reptilians and the queen and all this, I just take that with okay, it's possible. But other stuff, there's a lot of really good information he talks about. And I support him more than not, okay? In 75 to 80%, I would say I support what he says. And the other 20%, I just don't know about. I would just be saying, well, I just believe you. David Icke's right about everything. Is he? Well, but I would agree with 80% of it. Human beings and things and stuff. And he's got some really good information, a lot better than some other folks. And he talks to you face to face. You know what I mean? He's not afraid to show his face or say who he is or back down from it. And if you don't believe him, that's your choice. But anyway, and I respect him for that. I really do. But some of the stuff he talks about, I just can't prove in any way. So, okay, is he right? Is he true? Don't know. I've talked about some stuff that, I can't prove. I've seen him. Oh, by the way, tonight, every night I go out, I look for my friendly little weird lighted thing down to the south. Guess who's out there tonight? Little UFO down to the south would put it off the coast of Florida, really low in the sky tonight. But obviously doing this little twinkly twinkly thing that nothing else does. So yeah, said to be. Hey Roman, how are you? Good morning to you too. So, but there's a lot of conjecture, okay? And some of it might be true, and other parts. And here's the thing, and somebody made a comment about this earlier today with something I was listening to, and I thought, right on. And they were saying that there are a lot of people who want to do past life regression, right? And they all come back, well, I was King Arthur. Well, I was Guinevere, or I was, something in the past. That everybody seems to have this idea that if they have a past life or something, or they're related to the British monarch or something, they might not really be, because history is only as correct as the people who wrote it down. Okay. And there's been so much misinformation. So I would say about the British family, there's a lot of shenanigans that went on. Okay, a lot of shenanigans and folks in the wood pile, and so who knows? But here's the thing. Now, I went through a period myself where I was like, oh, the queen's a reptile and she eats little kids. And, then I was like, can't prove it. Other people talking about it. And then I reached a point for myself and I said, now, why am I like, gotta know? Is the queen really a reptile? Does she really shapeshift? Does she really eat, children? And then I realized it doesn't really matter to me personally because there's nothing I can do about it if she does or did or whatever. And can I prove any of it unless somebody's got a picture of her putting one down her gullet? Then the answer is no. So it's interesting. You can scratch your beard or nose or eyeball or butt or whatever and go, well, that's interesting. But all I can do is I'm listening to a person who has information, but not a picture proof or anything, just some odd information and circumstantial stuff, which I got to say is kind of, but is it absolutely true? I don't know. Conjecture, whatever. So with that said, um, there are things that I have seen, like my little ET friend that's flying around south of me tonight. I don't have a picture of it, but I see it. It pops up regularly. I've seen these other things, and I just try to be honest with you about everything I discuss. So, in my honesty, you can believe me or not, but there's something out there tonight down on the coast. ET's down there refueling their craft. It's chilly outside and it's clear, and that thing is just doing its number. Hey, David Castle. Chloe, how are you? Is Queen Elizabeth? Oh, she's just a pawn. She's just a pawn, dude. Queen Elizabeth is just a pawn, figurehead. Now, is she ahead of the family kind of thing? Yeah, but there are other people moving stuff around. She ain't the only one, okay? She does her job as queen. You follow me? But as far as all this other stuff, there are obviously other people that are taking care of business. Hey, Dave. According to me, we don't know them because they're ETs, okay? We don't know them. We really don't. Okay. The folks down here, they are just puppets. And there are Bilderbergs and Rothschilds, there are families. There's there are old families that we've never even heard about that have control of things. But the real true honest to God answer to some of this is that the Vlash and the Mater are and do have hybrids in high places in governments, CIA, FBI, uh, all over the planet. Okay. And that those folks are the ones in charge. Now, I want to go back to my original story for tonight. Thanks, XW. So, I'm going to put another, David Icke really enjoyed my video. Yeah, Cool Beans. I haven't met him, but I've watched him. You can watch his eyes, and for me, that was one of the things that I discussed years ago before I started doing this, and that in order for me to do what I do, I got to take my glasses off and look at y'all with an honest face, and y'all look at my eyes and you can tell whether or not you think I'm lying. Okay, so there, and for David Icke, he stares right at you, and you can tell when he's thinking, and he looks back to the camera. He's talking straight at you. He's really good at it. And here's the thing: he has been repeating the same things for, I'm going to say 10 years, maybe longer, but I'm just using 10 as an example. And he has not deviated from his story, but maybe only in the telling. So now tonight, have any of you seen, oh, let me repost the link that I say this young lady, she's younger than me, so therefore she's a young lady. Let's see. I should be able to do a control V and enter. Okay, now this is a lady that I have subscribed to for quite a few years now. She lives south of me, near Tallahassee. I found her show years ago, listening to her. She's done local stuff, travels around. Her name is KrisAnne Hall. I just put the link in the chat room if you want to go to her page. Now, I'm going to be referring to her page. I got it loaded here for discussion. All right. And if you type in SCOTUS at the thing, his friend talked before he died, saw. That's cool, Miss Delaney. Okay, now I'm not going to be able to watch the chat for a minute because I'm switching pages. Now today, the justices had conversation, litigation, and arguments, and the audio was recorded, but not the video. So on different channels, it was out there and so forth. And so it's going to be interesting because they have to print them. It's going to be interesting to read the entire transcript of what these justices said, because KrisAnne Hall has, has not mentioned everything. Why is this important? Because here's the thing, and I'm going to give it to you in a really major nutshell. Sotomayor said that a human being is no different than a machine in the workplace. Therefore, OSHA can mandate human beings like machines. Kagan said that if people don't like the mandates, they will vote the policy out. Courts should not decide this question. Now, here's the thing. Kagan said, as a Supreme Court justice now, that if people don't like the mandate, they will vote the policy out. Nobody voted the policy in. Okay. So now this discussion about OSHA, whether or not they have the right. Now, here's something that Miss KrisAnne points out, and something that many of us who've worked in the industries over the years have pointed out, that OSHA is not supposed to be this, walk into your place and shut you down and all this other kind of stuff. High vibes right back at you. So here's the thing. The OSHA, Occupational and Safety Hazard Association or Administration or whatever, was originally brought up because people were getting hurt on the job site in industry. So big business didn't want it, it got passed, and it was supposed to be guidelines. So if, like, for example, in a plant, if there's wires overhead, there has to be 2 people on the ladder, it has to be secured, it's got to have this and that, and there's got to be all this stuff before a person even climbs the ladder now, okay? No matter how high it is, all right? Now, there are some great distances, like 15, 20 foot up on a ladder, and it gets wiggly up there, okay? There are things about machines and electrical things, and any electrical box has to be locked with a lock. So, but the thing is that there's been times when whoever's got the keys is way back in the back. Somebody needs to shut something down. You can't get and then there's supposed to be 2 people. The person who's doing the electrical work never has the key. I mean, so OSHA made up these rules to keep workers from being hurt, okay? Hazardous, every chemical, anything that's used in the plant has a special sheet so you can check where it comes from, who made it, what's in it. You know, if you have an allergic reaction, which there were certain terpenes and things that I still don't like to get around. Bleach will knock me out. So a lot of folks have moved from bleach to using ammonia, for example, in cleaning on bathrooms and stuff. It's really better on the health and the environment. But here are these justices who are, number one, they're they're assuming that OSHA is a constitutionally recognized government thing that constitutionally may not actually have the right to do some of the stuff that OSHA does, period. Now, nobody brings this up, as she points out. But from my point, yeah, a lot of us in the business and stuff over the years, I mean, I've kind of agreed with big business now more than I used to, because big business doesn't want people to get hurt. If they've hired you on and gone through all the trouble and everything, they need you as a worker, honestly, right? And if you do right and work, then you get compensated. Maybe not the way you should, but at least you get compensated versus work for free, slave labor, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, but the remarks by Sotomayor that was backed up by Justice Kagan and also Gorkich or Gort, whatever it is, that human beings are no different than a machine in the workplace. Therefore, OSHA can mandate human beings just like machines. So KrisAnne describes it. Sotomayor said, if a machine in a factory were to start giving off sparks and possibly injuring or hurting other workers around that area. Now, if a robot was throwing off sparks that could injure other workers, if a robot, okay, and then therefore her analogy of human beings and robots is, so if a robot goes haywire and is shooting sparks, number one, the fuse is going to blow and it's going to quit. But that human beings who aren't vaccinated or whatever are spewing toxins and sparks and will infect everybody in the plant. Okay. That's her. We are like robots. And that's what she said. So it's like, are you seriously, what are you kidding? Is it buffering bad? Probably my topic for tonight. But this idea, though, that these folks, them folks, okay, on the Supreme Court justice, there are three of them who absolutely agree that we are like machines and therefore can be treated as such. Regardless of whether or not we're spewing sparks or not, their own words, without any kind of mincing what they meant or what they might mean, she said, human beings in the workplace are like machines, like robots, right? Ain't that a machine, right? I mean, you know. So, what? What? Okay. What? Now, for those of you, it's 25 minutes into this. It's 12:41 a.m. on January the 8th, 2022. It is a Saturday morning. I hope all of you are doing well, despite the craziness that goes on in the world. So there are some people who their reactions today were like, "Oh my God, we're going to lose this and everything." But here's the thing: these justices put on record their personal feelings about human beings and what they think we are. We're machines in the workplace, period. Well, what workplace? So is a secretary, therefore, because she's in the workplace, is she therefore a machine? Okay. Or he, somebody in the mailroom sorting mail. Well, a machine brings it in, but they still sort it to bring it and deliver it to all the little cubicles, right? Or whatever. So the person in the mailroom is now considered a machine in their eyes, as because they didn't say manufacturing facility, they said in the workplace. Okay. That's rather specific. Now, if there aren't some folks out there who don't, who doesn't, they should remove Sotomayor because of her statements. They ought to take that little wench off that and say, "I'm sorry, out of here." You of all people, Mexican American, whatever, and all the, little Mexicans that are put to work and all the child labor and all this kind of stuff and standing up for human rights. And what she declares openly in court during arguments that humans are like machines in the workplace. Okay. Now, while I was doing a little bit of research while listening to Miss KrisAnne Hall, I'm going to put it in the chat again. Okay. Control V. And if you want to know about constitutionality and rights and states' rights and this and that, subscribe to her channel. Whether you watch her every night, they have nightly shows when they can, and are always discussing current topics. But this particular one, I listen to her all the time, and her name is KrisAnne Hall. Okay, let me type that in here. Chris and oops, sorry, it's a double N. Hall is the lady's name, and her husband, and they found and teach constitutional law, and very informative, nice folks. They live just south of me, somewhere in North Florida, somewhere near around Tallahassee. So they're kind of sort of like neighbors, and they talk like Southerners. So it's that too. But she was livid today, okay, about what was going on. She was livid she said that you could hear the vehemence in Sotomayor's voice and these other people, like, they're workers. So, it's OSHA. We can mandate anything we want. That I'm just paraphrasing him, but to the point though that, making statements that human beings in the workplace are like machines and can be treated as such is insanity. Now, KrisAnne, she mentions that no statement since Dred Scott. And if I'm not mistaken, the Dred Scott Act and things and stuff like that was determining whether or not, because back in the day, Black men and women had a value, okay? So 3 Black women for 1 Black man, and the Black man was only a quarter of a person. And I mean, so Dred Scott was like, the argument was that no, they have equal rights, right? And in God we trust, and all others we ask to pay cash. But Melanie. So the idea, though, that Never, not since Dred Scott, has there been any kind of accusations made by the sitting justices about the value of a person. You see what I'm saying? When we are supposed to have unalienable rights by the Constitution and by the preamble, we, the people of the United States, right? And that, you know, every man, women, and child, and that was one of the arguments in um, the Dred Scott case was, yeah, but it doesn't say black people, you know, because blacks were slaves back then, because they were slaves, then they couldn't be people because they're slaves. You know, I mean, as odd as that sounds, but so now here are these folks at the top of the food chain, or so they think, are claiming they're making the absolute basic statement what they think of us, our value. We people in the workplace are like machines. Undeniable. Let's curse this lady. And we need to nail these remarks. We need to not let this drop. Because if nothing else, we need to go. If we pass along what this lady said as a Supreme Court justice. Now, it's not about blacks or whites or Mexicans or Chinese or Vietnamese. Any human, it says, that works in a in the workplace can be treated like a machine. Not people, not men or women, not black, white, green, gray, nothing, no aliens involved in this of any kind, up above or from another country, nothing. Any human being, you know what? Now, I want to slightly change the subject, but only kind of sort of slightly. I found this while looking for some other information, and I ran across this. Um, And I'm trying to find out when the date is on this. It might have been like last year or when they first started coming out. Um, some of this was in 2021. So I'm not sure how um, how current. It might be 6 months old, but it is at least within this last year. Okay. So it was about informed consent or refusal in vaccination is a fundamental right triggered strict scrutiny. How about that? Um, Here's the thing. So a summary of the argument, and I can put the PDF in the thing so y'all can see it yourselves. Respondents' vaccine mandate would not pass strict scrutiny for scientific reasons. There is no evidence that any of the currently available EUA COVID-19 vaccine prevent the spread of SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. And in fact, there is evidence that the spread of SARS-CoV-2 occurs in spite of the vaccination. Therefore, there is no scientific justification to segregate vaccinated and unvaccinated people. This is particularly important in light of super precedent Brown versus Board prohibiting separate but equal schooling. Okay. Now, this was put before the Supreme Court. Arguments are part of this. Okay. So there is compelling evidence that previous SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 infection is more effective at preventing SARS infection than COVID vaccines. Therefore, those previously infected with COVID-19 should have at least the same rights as those vaccinated, as those not vaccinated. So, in other words, if you got it without being vaccinated, You don't have to get the vaccination. If you can prove that you got sick with COVID, then you should have the same rights as any person who was vaccinated, is the argument. Okay. Um, Universally recognized by physicians, informed consent refusal in vaccination is a fundamental right, and it is essential to the patient's bodily integrity. So, informed consent to medical treatment is fundamental in both ethics and law. Patients have the right to receive information and ask questions about recommended treatments so that they can make well considered decisions about care. Successful communication in the patient physician relationship fosters trust and supports shared decision making. Okay. Informed consent is a core component. Informed consent. So if somebody is mandating you to take something, that's not informed consent, period. And this is from the AMA, the American Medical Association, in their principles of medical ethics, etc. And so, from the AMA, they're saying, listen, every person has this right. But now, if OSHA steps in and says, "Oh no, wait a minute, humans in the workplace are machines, so that don't count." Seriously? So, informed consent is the core component of the ethical clinical relationship. As with all forms of medical therapy, informed consent should precede vaccination administration. So, in other words, before they ever come at you with a needle, they should give you all the information pertaining to that particular type of shot. Where did it come from? What's its product date? I mean, everything. If the patient declines this, informed refusal of recommended vaccination should be respected. Patients who decline vaccination should continue to be supported with appropriate care options that honor their autonomous choices. Ding, 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 ding. The AMA, okay? And it was made citation ethical issues 2021 committee opinion number 829, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists. I mean, so that was this last year. Safeguarding informed consent or refusal is indeed essential to a successful doctor-patient relationship. Vaccination carries risk of harm and is an invasive medical procedure. One sentence. Vaccination carries risk of harm and is an invasive medical procedure. For a state or federally funded institute to engage in medical bullying or coercing this medical procedure upon patients is a direct infringement upon the rights of bodily integrity and privacy. The fundamental right of bodily integrity has been recognized in the United States, as this Supreme Court found in Union Pac something versus Botsford in 1891. No right is held more sacred or is more carefully guarded by common law than the right of every individual to possess and control of his own person, free from all restraint or interference of others, unless by clear and unquestionable authority by law. It's also, see, Washington versus Harper, U.S. It was in 1990. The forcible injection of medication into a non-consenting person's body represents a substantial interference with that person's liberty. 1990. Applying Jacobson versus Massachusetts to the modern day, leading scholars at Boston University wrote, public health programs that are based on force are a relic of the 19th century. The 21st century public health depends on good science, good communication, and trust in public health officials to tell the truth. In each of these spheres, constitutional rights are the ally rather than the enemy of public health. Preserving the public's health in the 21st century requires preserving respect for personal liberty. Even in an emergency, when there is a rapidly spreading contagious disease and an effective vaccine, the state is not permitted to forcibly vaccinate or medicate anyone. The constitutional alternative is to segregate infected and exposed people separately, allowing self-quarantine to prevent them from transmitting the disease to others. While, in quotes, parentheses, the Supreme Court has not decided a case that involved isolation or quarantine for disease, it has held that civil commitment for mental illness is unconstitutional unless a judge determines that the person is dangerous by reason of mental illness, assuming, as most scholars do, that the law governing commitment to a mental institution also applies to involuntary confinement for contagious diseases. The government would have the burden of proving by clear and convincing evidence that the individual has or has been exposed to a contagious disease and is likely to transmit the disease to others if not confined. In cases that involve civil commitment or involuntary hospitalization for mental illness, which happened to me, the court has required the state to prove by clear and convincing evidence that a person is mentally ill and that the illness render the person dangerous to others. Now there's more on this, and this is a PDF file, but it was printed last year for sure. Here's this next part B. There is no evidence that COVID-19 vaccines prevent the spread of SARS or COVID-19. And in fact, there is evidence to the contrary. Government statements confirm there is no evidence that COVID-19 vaccines prevent the spread of SARS-CoV or COVID. Therefore, there is no scientific justification to segregate between vaccinated and unvaccinated peoples. Clinical trials for Pfizer and were not designed to observe asymptomatic infection or the effect of the vaccine on the spread, the transmission of COVID-19. Consequently, in its briefing document for each vaccine, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, states that it is possible that asymptomatic infections may not be prevented as effectively as symptomatic infections, and data are limited to assess the effect of the vaccine against transmission from individuals who are infected despite vaccination. Furthermore, additional evaluations, including data from clinical trials and from vaccine use in preventing viruses shedding and transmission, in particular in individuals with asymptomatic infection. So, in other words, if you might feel like or have symptoms that you got the flu, but it doesn't mean that you're going to spread it to somebody. And if you've already been vaccinated, and here's another statement a couple of pages down. This will be page 15. I'll put this in this link in the thing. Government statements confirm that COVID-19 vaccines do not prevent the spread of SARS-CoV or COVID-19, and that both vaccinated and unvaccinated persons equally transmit the virus. In July of 2021, in Barnstable County, down in Massachusetts, 469 COVID cases were identified among Massachusetts residents who traveled to town, and 346 of them occurred, 74% occurred in fully vaccinated people. So 74% of the COVID-19 cases occurred in fully vaccinated people. Of the 5 hospitalized cases, 4 were vaccinated. The CDC also concluded the cycle threshold values were similar among specimens from patients who were fully vaccinated and those who were not, which means vaccinated and unvaccinated persons can equally spread SARS, and there is no scientific basis for discrimination based on vaccination status. Another CDC statement highlighting this, preliminary evidence suggests that fully vaccinated people who do become infected with the Delta variant can spread the virus to others. Now, I just got to say, how about that shit? I am the last one back. Yeah, Roman, good for you. But here's the thing. So this information is put out by I'm gonna put it's a PDF file, and I found it kind of sort of by accident. Let's see, Control C. And I'm reading through these things earlier, and I was like, holy crap. And they're quoting, I mean, they got the page number and the back, so Control V. Yeah, that's a big one. But you can download it as a PDF and view it at your leisure. But with what's in there, but the idea that vaccines are in the in their statement that any kind of vaccine is a severe infringement upon the body. What? So here's Sotomayor and them. Today, humans are like machines. So, well, you can't vaccinate a machine. You could, if it's a robot, you can like reprogram it or reset it or something like that. But human beings, seen as truly turning people. Oh, is it really, Pearl? But so anyway, so it has already been established in other issues, in other cases, the cases of mental health, mentally, quote, insane people. They threw me in for 3 days, but 3 days with the Baker Act. But here's the thing, if you're a danger to yourself or to others, and these statements are if you're a harm to someone else, right? But okay, so they're using this same thing. Well, just because I go to mental health doesn't mean I'm going to kill you. So that is the same thing. Well, when I was in mental health, so I take my little mental health pills. Well, you go to mental health. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, big stigma, right? Not so much anymore, but back then, big stigma. You go to mental health. Yeah. Well, stay away from me, crazy person. Right. Okay. If you want to be that way, you coward. But this idea, though, that so there are people who were vaccinated, okay, by this report, who were vaccinated and got sick anyway. So what's the point of getting it if you're going to get it anyway? You know what I mean? I mean, just what? So of all, and this is that one case in Massachusetts. Did y'all get that thing? Take the link, and open it and read it through. But what was it? I think, if my memory, it was 1881 or 1801 or 18 something that they established that human beings have this, inalienable right, and it was proven in court. And they said, you can't do this. You can't force a person to do this. No, 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 no. So whoever is presenting the the oral argument um, against the mandate, wipe it out, say no. They're not citing any of these things that have already set a precedence in the Supreme Court itself. And how dare this witchy woman to compare you and I, us human beings, as machines in the workplace. And we can be treated as such. And that two other justices agreed with her, both men, but that's not the point. So who is this creepy Sotomayor that's supposed to be for the, Mexican American and this? Listen, there are a lot of Mexican Americans that I worked with in these factories. So she's treating her own countrymen and saying, look, screw y'all. I think y'all are nothing but machines when you go to work, you know. And here's the other thing is that somehow only at work will you get this, okay? Now, there's already been mucho evidence that the masks just don't work. They make situations worse in the lungs and, and all that stuff. And people making these masks are not certified, you know what I mean, to what particulates. So all these people are making masks at the house and all. Oh, I got my mask on. Yeah, but what particulates can go through it? Well, what do you mean by that? Do you know what a particulate is? Well, no, but it sounds cool. But wait. So, and I've got 3 different masks, okay, and one of them was sent to me by a healthcare provider, okay, and it's cloth. And I'm like, what? And, it's like you can see through it. You hold it up to the light, you can see through it, through the cloth fibers. So how good is that shit going to do to me with a virus that's very, very tiny? But my healthcare provider sent it to me in the mail and said, here, use this to keep yourself safe. I mean, honestly. So, but from the standpoint of the law, there is already precedence for you and I to not be forced under any circumstances. And so somebody want to jab you, that reference that I gave you in this thing. Yeah, they admitted it in public. Yeah, I really want a copy of, since it wasn't videotaped, but they have to, have type up the transcripts of that. So this is Friday. By Monday or Tuesday, the transcripts should be available to the general public. It's supposed to be published in the General Register and the Federal Register and every day, and they do this. So, it should be publicly available. Now, let's see what happens over the weekend if anybody raises a ruckus about this. But that PDF file that I that's out here, Yeah, that too. But you're also breathing in too much carbon dioxide, monoxide, whatever. When you're supposed to be exhaling it, it's not going all the way out. So when you breathe in, you're breathing in your exhale. I mean, it gets caught in the mask kind of thing. So no, it's not good for you. OSHA told me and the factory that I worked in, where there was a lot of dust, we worked on grinding machines, and we had to use a stone to form the wheel the right way. And there's a lot of dust, and I mean, chips coming off the wheel and everything. And they told us, no, you can't wear a mask because of the particulates, and the dust particles were too small, and they would come through the mask anyway. But their biggest, and I'm talking about these little, what everybody's wearing, can't wear them because it impedes your breathing and makes it harder on your lungs. Now, I knew this in the mid 80s when it became an issue, and OSHA, it was one of OSHA's rules. See, so here's OSHA in the workplace saying you shouldn't wear a mask all the time. Guess why? Because it impedes your breathing. Had big seminar on it. Had to have a class on it. The HR department got into it because all of us in the machine shop were like, we're coughing up dust particles in the morning. We stand around in the shop in the morning and compare how black our boogers are from the day before. I mean, that's how gross it was. And some of them boogers was nasty, let me tell you. And you'd be spitting up darkness and things, but we can't wear a mask. So we came up with other solutions for ourselves, but we still couldn't wear a mask, right? Couldn't bring one to work. They'd write us up. And that was like in 1985. Okay. So this ain't new news about the mask and the breathing and all this stuff. But somehow OSHA, who now they're trying to promote to vax people, and apparently it's okay to wear a mask now, where in 86, 5, 86, maybe 87, it was, it was against industrial policy to allow a worker, unless it was just for a few minutes, to wear a mask. The same kind they're handing out to everybody that's going to keep us safe. And people are wearing them all the time. So how safe is that, OSHA? You know, how safe is that with all of the regulations that are already have been in place since the mid 80s on some of these things? And they're just turning a blind eye and not even paying attention to their own regulations. That the Sotomayor is not paying attention to the supposed to be a good, judge and all this for the Supreme Court and all this stuff, and Comey Bear Bryant, whatever that says, she like what? So it seems to me that some of these people, I thought, would have a little bit of common sense and would be able to at least look into their own um, um, Supreme Court precedents set, voted on, and otherwise, because that's how they win a case. Where they say, well, in 1801, this precedence by the Supreme Court made this constitutional analogy that no one can be forced into this, regardless of whether or not it's OSHA, regardless of whether or not it's the president, regardless of it's anybody. It's already precedent by the Supreme Court. Who's going to bring this up? Anybody? I wished I could, but you and me start spreading this around, how crazy this woman is and what she said about you and me and most of the population of the United States. That's how these people think of us, as machines. Now, if you don't think there ain't an alien in that woodpile, stop and think about her remark. Okay, I'm going to go back over here and read that a human being Okay, not a person, that a human being is no different than a machine in the workplace. Therefore, OSHA can mandate human beings like machines. Now, let me just, you know me, and I talk about the ET stuff all the time. Why would she make it a clear statement, human beings? Just stop and just ponder that one, because it's 1:17 here in the AM time. Cheers, everybody. It's an hour and 39 seconds. I've been here. Blessings to all you. I'm kind of sort of on a roll and not really watching the chat, but there are those folks that go like, well, David's on a tirade or whatever. No, this may seem like it's not important, but it's really important because of precedence. Hey, Coleslaw. But because of what this woman said about human beings, pay attention. Why? Because another human being would say people or persons or workers. The statement is human beings in the workplace, suggesting she's talking about us, but she ain't talking about her because she ain't a human being. You follow what I'm saying? She is not human. She's above us, human beings. Human beings in the workplace are like machines. Why not people or workers or, you know, human beings specifically said more than once. So to me, she's an alien. Somebody asked me, I think it was XWX44 something. Anyway, how can you tell? You can tell by that lady right there. Why? Because of her statement. If she was a human being, she wouldn't have used that kind of statement. So anyone that makes that kind of like, I've been around really rich people, millionaires, big houses, you know, and they talk down to their staff and anybody who isn't of their stature, you know, and we all have this. So here is Sotomayor saying human beings, meaning she is better than human beings. You follow me? You say, well, Dave, aren't you stretching it? It's right there in front of us. Bam, plastered out. She said it, you know. So, but anyway, good to see you, Coleslaw, and Roman and Michelle as always, and David as always, and everybody else. Pearl in the background somewhere, and some other folks. I think Chloe's hanging out somewhere. So I'm sorry, but I've been reading, and I needed to stay on track and not have a chat in the chat room until I got this much out. It's 1:20 in the morning time, my friends. If you got them, share with us. And tonight's prayer, when I light this, is that somebody will say, what? And get this record straight. Because this right here is a mess. Oh, by the way, that was a good one. It's wedding cake. But by the way, Bob, I haven't said hi to you in a long time. And Bob, I respect you and the AI out there. Thank you and YouTube for allowing me to be here with my friends and neighbors and to have conversation like this. And it's not against YouTube. It's not against anybody. Well, it is against somebody personal. It's against Justice Sotomayor, who, you know, claims that human beings, well, I would argue we could raise our hand and go, okay, who here is a true human being? Well, I don't know. My ancestors are from Andromeda. Well, my ancestors are from Pleiades, and well, their ancestors are from Sirius, the dog star, and them folks over there, they're from. So really, so are any of us like true human beings? What does that mean? Okay, so but here's a justice of the Supreme Court. I'm not necessarily livid, but I'm like, the more that got turned in my head, and I was listening to KrisAnne, and I'm going through this, like, what? And I'm going to post this PDF again. I need to save it to my hard drive. But for those of you who think this is a joke, please don't. We need to take this one and spread it around. Let me do a Control V again. Control V. And that's the PDF from the AMA and doctors and everything. And their arguments, it included several things. It included, whether you're vaccinated or not, it doesn't matter if you segregate people. So they were speaking against forced quarantine, unless it was like, you're now for me, I would say, if you're like bleeding out your nose and anus and and you're like sick, you go over here in that line. Okay. But folks with no symptoms or asymptomatic, like for me, several times a day, my nose goes nuts and it'll literally just start running out my nose. It's gross. And so I got paper towels everywhere because Kleenex don't work. And I always keep something in my back pocket because I have no idea when this is going to, like, my nose is going to attack me and just start draining on its own. So, but if I'm coughing or sneezing because I'm having one of these little flare-ups during the day, 3 or 4 times a day it happens to me. For the last, I can't remember how many years. But do I have a cold or do I have a flu or a fever or anything? No. But somebody say, well, he just coughed. Ooh, stay away from him. He might have it. Hang on there. So, but their argument is it doesn't matter. From the AMA, right? And doctors and publications, and that's why I put that thing in there. You keep, yeah. I've got them, unfortunately, like this. So I'll use a paper towel and I'll open it up and I'll use the inside and fold it over, and then I set it off to the side and let it dry. I know. But I hang them over here. But if I have an accident and I can't get to my paper towels, which are sitting right there within arm's reach, I take this one that is now not really, okay, it's got dried snot on it. But I've got 2 surfaces, and I can blow my nose here, fold it over again, and then it goes in the garbage can. So, because sometimes it just goes crazy. I can't get to the paper towel quick enough. But anyway. So yeah, I got a couple of these things that have dried because my nose went crazy and I put it under. But to the point though, if I was contagious, everybody that has been to my house and have visited me in these last week or so, they've been around me and quote my little snot rags. They should all be having runny noses and sick. But see, it's my own inside issue with whatever it is that gets my nose to running. But anyway. I'm not sick with a disease or anything, at least not that I know of, because this has been going on for years now. That's why I take Benadryl. I take a half a Benadryl 2 or 3 times a day to keep it from doing that. But anyway, and I attribute it to my many years of snorting cocaine and other stuff up my nose. I ruined my sinuses, So my fault, and I'm paying for it, So kids, don't snort. Not good for you. You will, if you live to be my age at 69 and a quarter, had to throw that in. That your nose will just go off and start running, and you'll be embarrassed too with snot all over your chin and down your clothes. Yeah, it's a really pretty sight, But anyway, that was just too gross. But that's it. It is the truth. But so with sort of I guess my being snotty about this, a little snarky, is somebody. And when I first heard about Sotomayor and they were putting her on the bench back in the day, and I was like, well, there's women. There's a woman with like Mexican, Spanish kind of sort of, I think, background. And okay, that's cool, right? She's going to make decisions that are going to be practical and oh my God, what a nut job. She's a nut job. I'm sorry. I thought that this lady was going to have a little modicum of, of humanity, but she calls humans machines in the workplace. That's how they view us. That's how she views us. And again, I'm going to reiterate, you know me and my ET kind of conspiracy thing. Why would, quote, another human being make that statement the way she did? Human beings in the workplace? What? Doesn't that sound like something that an alien would say? Well, those human beings in the workplace should be treated just like robots. And that was the way she was making the statement. And that if a machine started sparking off and shooting out shards of metal to other people around it, that if somebody is sick, then they're just like that machine, throwing out shards of metal at people, and the virus and the thing is just like what? That's what she said. I'm maybe not exactly, but that's what she said. So a machine, I worked around a lot of machines, and none of them started sparking and throwing off, uh, pieces of metal like she was describing. I have worked on some machines where you put a piece of metal and you use a magnet to hold it down, and you grind it, right? Well, there's sometimes for whatever reason that magnet doesn't hold that piece down, and I've seen some pieces of metal get slung 100 feet across the shop and go through a steel wall, you know. Um, and so there are accidents, but they're like not on purpose or whatever. It's circumstances, right? And but depending, but a lot of things are taken care of, and more guards around the grinders and stuff. But it's really hard to grind when you can't anyway. But to the point though, I have worked on machines where the magnet just did not hold the piece down, and you had to grind it to a specific size, and you were, I mean, literally a third of a human hair to be in the right thickness, and all of a sudden the magnet lets go and sends that that piece of metal across the shop, and it will blow the wheel up too, and so there's wheel coming at you all the time, and that we as human beings who might cough or and here's the thing, that it's like only in the workplace are people going to get sick. They must be mandated if you're going to work in the factory, because other people at the factory, well, what if you go to the store? If you go to outside, what if you go to a lot of places ain't, wearing masks anymore. Some places up in Tennessee and whatever, most folks didn't. 90% of the population in some of those towns, because I visited them and talked with folks, nobody wore a mask during the whole beginning or any of it. So same thing talking with my relatives up in Ohio, and it's just like, okay. So certain places down here went overboard, you know, across you drive 30 miles to the state line and everything's totally different. You come up to Thomasville and these people are like, oh, you got to wear a hoodie and you got to wear a thing, and we're all going to die. And that's just stupid shit. But with all of that medical report that I put out there, that were legitimate arguments put forth to the Supreme Court, and that so why are they even arguing this case. They should look at the precedents of the 1801 or whatever that one that I read, that no one has the right to inflict anything on any person. Period. 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 As by the Constitution. So, if you know, if there are causes or anything to get behind, spreading the word about this lady's insanity and her statements and the precedence that's already there in the Supreme Court. Because if they get away with this and they allow the mandate, then they have broken their own laws. They've broken their own justice system. And the people who voted for this thing should be taken off the court simply because there's already precedence. It's already in the books. So if they ignore it, then they are not doing their job as a justice, and that is grounds for removal. It doesn't, because they don't get to stay in until they die. They can be taken out at any time and relieved of duty, especially if they ignore a previous precedent set by the Supreme Court itself. Now, they can argue that precedence and overrule it, but that's not what they're doing. They're trying to assess whether or not the Biden mandate to OSHA is constitutional. And by what's already there, the answer is no. Period. There should be no discussion because they should be able to pull up previous statements by their own Supreme Court justices previously and go, sorry, here it is. It's already been decided. Well, but no, sorry, it's already been decided. But sorry, it's already been decided. There is no case here. You can't make them do it. OSHA can't make their workers do it. Biden can't force anybody because it's already a precedent set. It's already on the books. Sorry, gang. See you later. There shouldn't have been argument, but for Sotomayor to claim that human beings, so what does that make her? I mean, that keeps running through my head like a really nasty broken record. What? Human beings in the workplace? What? Human beings working in the workplace? What? And I'm listening to alien radio, right? And it's like, them human beings when they're in the workplace, they're just like robots. What do you think about that? Astro lad. Well, I think it's true. Them human beings that work, at the car wash, them human beings that work down there at Burger King, and them human beings that sometimes work at the local Arby's because the COVID thing. And some of them people. So human beings in the hospital who work on other supposedly human beings, because they're in the workplace, then they're like a machine. Well, but I don't know of a lot of machines that do open heart surgery by itself. Not yet. Close. I don't know where folks can do, I don't know of a robot. I know they've been trying and trials and stuff, but in every little, community that can put stitches in, somebody cut their leg. Okay. So, oh, well, we need a machine to put those stitches in. Well, all we got over here is this lowly little human being. Well, will this human being suffice to put stitches in this guy's leg because he's spurting blood up? So, well, but we don't necessarily have a machine that can really do that yet, but we're working on it. Some trial and error stuff. Some of the patients were not happy when this Cyclops thing came out, like, hold your legs still while I pit it together. Ah, ding, 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 ding. So, the hell with alien invasion. We've got these people who think of you and me as human beings. You know, there are folks who are dog owners, there are folks who are cat owners, and then there are folks who have cats and dogs and cats, like me. I have a dog and cats, but the idea though that it's like, but then that means you're more of an animal lover than a dog person or a cat person. Okay, well, so I'm a dog person. Okay, I'm a dog person because I like dogs. Beggars over here, right? But do I say I'm a dog human being lover thing? You know, I mean, I'm a person, right? So persons or people who are in the workplace, you see where I'm going with this? From a human being's point of view, would say person or people or some other determination other than human beings. Okay, I think you get the drift. So after an hour and 21 minutes, um, those parasites have completely lost touch with what we human beings call reality. So, but anyway, we honestly need to keep an eye on this, you and me. This is one of them things that we can observe, but we can't let it slide. Other people have to know what she said. We got to just, whether they voted yes or no, but that link I sent you about for that PDF and the precedents already set within the Supreme Court, we cannot let them get away with this. We can't. We have got to tell everybody and say, well, whether you agree with it or not, here's the law set by the Supreme Court. What? It's already there. They're bypassing the what? Wait a minute. Wait. You mean there's already a law? Yeah. Oh, now let me put the icing on the cake, okay? Which I did not mention earlier, but as I'm kind of tapering off on this particular, um, after she makes these statements about human beings, Sotomayor says, we have accepted the constitutionality of police power to regulate the workers of America. Let me repeat that. Sotomayor said, we, like the Supreme Court and them folks, we have accepted the constitutionality of police power to regulate the workers of America. Do you hear what she just said? Did the police power have the right to constitutionally regulate workers? What? Does that not sound like some kind of Nazi statement? Well, the police can come into your workplace at any time and make you do something. What? That's what she said. We have accepted the constitutionality of police power to regulate the workers of America. Now, do you want that lady up there any longer making any kind of decisions other than what she wants for lunch? She needs to get out because the police are not there to regulate the workers. That's exactly what she said, because in that statement, then you and I have no unalienable rights. She just wiped that one right off the boards. What? Yeah, because she states we, as the Supreme Court and those of us in government, have accepted the constitutionality of police power to regulate the workforce. Ain't that a lie? You can't make, The governor in Georgia had to call in the National Guard because a third of the doctors at Phoebe Putney Hospital walked off because they were being mandated to either get vaxxed or leave, and a lot of them left. And so all these people were pissed and all this other stuff. They literally called in the National Guard to, to take over because they lost so much staff. But that's not the government regulating or making. They didn't go out and get the doctors and saying, you're going to go back to work. You're going to go back and do. They didn't go out and get nurses or the floor or the janitors or whoever quit and said, you're going back to work or we're going to hold a gun to you. We're going to force you. They didn't do that. No, they came in because they were understaffed. Total difference. But Sotomayor and we, whatever her and whoever she includes in her we statement, agree the constitutionality. Where in the Constitution does it give the police the power to regulate workers? It don't. Nowhere. Nothing. So that's a falsehood. That's an assumption on her part. And if you want this lady to continue to be a SCOTUS, nah, we need to be telling folks. I'm sorry, we just can't let this one slide. There's a lot of stuff we can like, yeah, okay, yeah, nah, not this one. Please speak up and tell your friends and neighbors in conversation. Do you know what that Supreme Court justice said about us? She said, we human beings are like machines. You ain't got to go into a whole big dissertation because then they can say, but man, look it up, man. There's, they said some crazy stuff the other day. And so you ain't got to be a conspiracy theorist. We ain't making this up. You can't make this up, right? And her statement that the police power is constitutionally right to regulate workers. What? A policeman showing up at your front door saying, okay, get out, you're going to work today. You got to go, or they're standing at, seriously? What in the is this woman implying? Now, in her brain, she is implying a Nazi type of regime because in her mind, guess what she said? Constitutionally accept police power over the workers of the United States. Police power. They are judges and they believe in the police state. And they think constitutionally that it's accepted. They have let the little kitty cat out of the bag in full view of the whole planet and anybody up there that's watching. So please, my dear friends, on Facebook and conversation, because this ain't going to go away. There's some folks that, and if they don't bite on this, as we would say down here in the South, if they don't bite on this one, then, they could really catch some folks in this. And so if ain't nobody talking about it, we need to talk about it some more. And if they get away with this, nah, come on. We've had enough. When they blatantly call us human beings machines, and that they blatantly say that police power is constitutional to make us workers do whatever they mandate on us, that's just blatant out and out tyranny, bullshit, and etc. And in a previous time, she would have been taken out and hung, okay, for treason. Those are treasonous statements, especially as a Supreme Court justice. So I love you all, but we could change the subject now. I'm going to put something else in my bowl here and kind of chill out a little bit and, But of all the, it all of these little things that they said and their demeanor, how it was spoken, not nice. What time is it? 1:45 in the AM time. It is Saturday morning, January the 7th. No, it's the 8th now, 2022. And, it's only 8 days into the new year, and there's already BS happening in the Supreme Court, my dear friends, and things that we just wouldn't have thought of going back to the days of slavery. Seriously. And I'm going to, the KrisAnne Hall show on YouTube, please check it out. That's where I was getting, her opinion, but also other information too. And depending on those who might come in, I'm hoping that the link will still be in the thing, but um, the arguments that are printed out in that PDF file I put up there, that's it. They simply should submit that report. But here's the issue: they submitted that report. That report has already been submitted. And they're still hearing the case. If it had been submitted, they would have declined to hear anything on the case, citing precedents of previous stuff. There should have been no oral arguments. There should have been no this or that. And one of the other things that several of the judges did, oh, there are thousands of people dying every day from this. No, they're not. I mean, no, they're not. And they were talking about in America and states and one of the states, and I can't remember which one, um, Kansas or anyway, one of the states attorney generals was there to tell them that from a states' rights point of view, the federal government had no right to send any federal mandate in and say, well, OSHA says you're going to do this. No, it's up to the states, as to whether or not the federal government. And they got a really major good point there in the arguments today that no, this, if it's anybody's, like Ron DeSantis and in Florida, you know, he made a statement like last week, and he did another one here within the last day or so. They're not all flying. Everybody is falling over dead and sick and this and that. Is there a flu phase going on through Florida, like he said? And it's true. Every year there's a phase in this part of the county. There's that's for all these years. That's just the way it goes. It's like it's almost like a storm. It follows a pattern, right? So, but anyway, the fact that she used we, constitutionality, police power, regulate workers. What? Because that's what Hitler did. That's what they did. No, the police have the right to come in and, take over the Jewish families or kick them out or whatever. She's stating they have the right to do that. She's stating that the high justices of the United States, that is one of their core beliefs. We believe the constitutionality that the police power has the right to regulate workers. No, they don't. No. I've read the Constitution. I'm not a constitutional lawyer or absurd person, but you read the different articles, they don't give anybody, except like in extreme cases of war or stuff where there's you know, um, um, martial law declared or something like that, those rare instances and things, which were real important back in the days of the Civil War. But this stuff here about, that human beings, and thinking about the Dred Scott case and I studied it years ago about how, you know, the value of a Negro man was like 1/3 that of a white man, his value. And on um, and I mean, for a long time, that's the way it was. Okay. And that was one of the reasons for the voting in the 60s. What was because black men were considered inferior to white people. And they felt that way for a long time because it was on the books. The value of a Negro man and the value of a Negro woman. There were levels of priority within the slavery and the thing of it. But then after slavery, nobody wanted to say that they had equal rights. The Emancipation Proclamation said they were free, but it didn't give them equal rights because their value, a Negro man was worth 1/3 of that of a white man. So, as a sharecropper, slaver, if a white man was a slave, he was still worth one person. But if a black man who was chained right next to him, he was only worth 1/3 as much as a human being. So the white slave, in technicality, could vote where the black man under no circumstances could vote because of no value. So the Dred Scott, that case, and what is going on now is very much the same. We human beings are have the value of a machine to be regulated, turned off, on, whatever. Hey, howdy, Steve. How are you? So, you know, I went through the whole thing. The thing about being a person or a citizen or whatever, and I am a sovereign citizen of the state of Georgia in the county of Colquitt County within the United States of America. So, but all that crap, oh yeah, I'm a sovereign being. Okay, no, you're not. Not in their eyes. To me and you, yes, we're sovereign beings. To the rest of the group, they laugh at that. And there are so many people over the years, some of them are still in jail, that have, quote, no, I am a sovereign being. It says right here. And they go, sure, no problem. The straw man thing, and I'm the this, and I'm going to retain. I'm going to get my birth certificate back from the Vatican, and I'm going to be. Go ahead. What do you get at the end of it if you get it without them getting you somewhere along the line? Is quite simple. Nowhere. Why? Because they still win. You have to drive on their roads. If you don't, they will sell your property if you don't pay property tax, no matter what you claim you are and what sovereign rights you have. If you live in a county like Colquitt County, they're going to go, okay, you can claim anything you want, but if you don't pay your taxes on time, we're going to sell that shit on the courthouse lawn. And every second Tuesday or whatever it is, we're going to sell it to the highest bidder to pay off your taxes. Like it, lump it, you can declare all you want to. Why? Because I did way back when and damn near lost my property, right? So you can claim all you want to, but they're bigger than us, right? So, but for a Supreme Court justice to say what she did today, and two others with similar other kind of remarks, and it was their innuendos and the snide way they said it. Like, well, human beings in the workplace, but they're not any better than a machine and should be treated as such. I mean, snarky, snotty, and no offense, but who the fuck are you, lady, to make that statement in the first place? And when I heard the statement, I went, she's an alien. Why? Because she refers to us as human beings. And that the police power, meaning whatever ultimate, whoever they send our way, has the power, constitutionally, they say, to regulate us, human beings. Cheers, everybody. Now, for me, in these last 6 or 7 hours of listening and watching and doing some research, and Lord knows I'm so glad I found that PDF file. But the idea that there are a lot of doctors, the entire AMA made these arguments in writing to the Supreme Court to be brought up and also at lower courts. And they're citing other Supreme Court, So with that said, for these folks to be acting like this, they can't be human. All right. They got to be something else, because no other human being that was commissioned by the people of the United States of America to entrust, because they take a vow, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And where does it say in the Constitution that the police have the power to regulate workers? It doesn't. So there's somebody there that obviously doesn't know the Constitution, or she's got one she's working off of that me and you don't have a clue about. That's why I'm saying she's an alien. Why? Because she doesn't care about what's written. They've made up their own because we, as she said in the statement, agree constitutionally that police power can regulate workers. They tried that in New York. They tried it in Chicago. They've tried it in San Francisco and other cities around the nation way back in the day. And they had riots and killings and shootings and hangings and knifings, and it was some bad shit. So the Supreme Court wants to set a precedence that all human beings, now, see, human beings, she didn't say we human beings, constitutionality of the power, police power, but she didn't include her as a human being. You follow me? So I think this is disclosure. You want to know what I mean? Check out the Act of 1870. Oh, I have. I did. I've been all through that way back when. Honest to goodness, I've been through all that, you know. And I was still hoping that when Trump was president, there was a lot of talk that we were going to be able to go back to that Constitution with no capital letters and the whole 9 yards, and that we would go back to some type of silver standard or some kind of, and that the Federal Reserve would go bye-bye, and we would actually get notes from the Treasury Department, not from the Federal Reserve. But anyway, yeah, been there. Absolutely, Steve. There's a lot there. But this particular act, and here, you came in late. I'm going to put this PDF in your, I'm going to put this PDF in the chat again. Control V. Go download that. It's a PDF file from the AMA and stating, about COVID, vaccines, masks, whether or not people should be quarantined, who gets it, who spreads it, and the whole 9 yards. And also, but it proves in there that from an act back in 1800s ish, that they determined that no one could, that any injection is a serious invasion of bodily functions, and that every person has the right to secure their own body and their own functions. So there's a lot of good information in that PDF file, and a lot of references and doctors and citations and court so it's like, yeah, get that one. And I am standing on my doing a little stump speech tonight, and that I just don't think we should let this go. We should talk about this. And because of the statements this crazy lady said, I don't care who she is, but as a Supreme Court justice, they had no right making those remarks about us, you and me, and talk down about us, and that we human beings are. Well, who the fuck are you to make what? I mean, it's like my shit don't stink, but all you human beings, you're all machines. Look at us up here, because we have determined constitutionally that police power will regulate workers. Put it on your Facebook page. What is this? What's this judge mean by human beings being regulated like machines? Let other people do what? She said what? Because that's what I did. She said what? Let me check this out. Holy crap. But there's all these other people with medical degrees and colleges, and not everybody in colleges is smart, but at least they've tried to cite all of this current data within the last couple of years, because many of those articles and researches and things were in 2021, so it's as current as it can be at this point. And they're cited by America. They're cited by hospitals, cited by healthcare workers, cited by laws and previous, regulations that were tried to be informed. And it's like, oh, and that's at www.supremecourt.gov too, that document. See, I mean, that's an official document. Yeah. Body autonomy. Absolutely, Michelle. You cannot force me. I mean, here's the thing, the police supposedly can hold you down and get and force you to take a drug test, or they will take blood. If they put a needle in you, you could sue them because of the precedents set in that document about the bodily, having the bodily invasion. So you say, well, wait a minute. And you go, hang on. Did you know that there is a Supreme Court decision in 18, whatever it was, 01, that it is against the law for you to force me you can't hold, if you hold me down and inject me, then you're liable for attempted murder, attempted whatever. But no, under any circumstances, no law, no nothing. And that, you can't do this. Hey, Barry. Yeah, if you say no, they get, period. That's it. No, I don't agree. Then that's it. They can't. If they try to enforce or whatever, then that's against the law as well. Whether they poke you or not, if they poke you and prod you to get poked and prodded, that ain't legal either. So there's already precedence, and that's Barry. If you see up a little bit where I put in a link, copy that. It's a PDF file, but it's from supremecourt.gov. So it's like a real document, not something made up. And there's AMA and other kind of, precedents in that. It's very interesting read and not hard to comprehend. You don't have to stick around, but if you can, just click on that PDF and save it somewhere. Because you can read it later, but trust me, dude, you're gonna want to read it. At least the portions that I read in this video. But anyway, I hope you feel better, Barry. You ain't got to stick around. Wasn't going to be on here long. It's 2:07 in the morning time. I guess I'll stick around to 2:20 anyway. But I really wasn't going to do a video tonight. There was some other things on my mind and in someplace else and blah, blah, blah. And then in my, doing my daily check what's going on. Yeah, everybody send a prayer to Barry. As I light this up, I'm going to send healing prayers through my 20 smoke, okay? My 20 prayer. How about that one? So, and I mean it. I'm here's my prayer up with this smoke, up in smoke. But anyway, so in kind of sort of conclusion and whatever to wrap this up and literally not beat a dead horse, but there are so many implications of this as far as the statements that they made, not just her. She was a little bit more specific than the other two guys. Other two guys? Is she a guy? Anyway, it's not what I meant, but it sounded that way. But for her to refer to us as human beings, uh, rather than people or persons or whatever, even citizens. Well, any citizens that might be working in a factory, no, human beings, as opposed to robots. That's I tell you, my folks upstairs are like, pay attention to that. That's important, Dave. Pay attention, Hawkeye. That's important. Pay attention, both of you down there, meaning me, myself, and I. That's three. Then wait a minute. But the more I'm like, oh, that's clear and present danger. That's like she forgot who she's impersonating, which is a human being. Think about that one. I know I'm crazy, but it'd be interesting. I'm not going to make a prediction, but it's going to be interesting if Dante and them make any comment about her comments about human beings. Just curious. But if they do, I mentioned it. Okay. Just saying. So right now, Barry, I'm sending this this sativa smoke and prayers for your feeling better. Okay. Honestly. Whoo, that's sativa. Yum, yum. There's a part of me after hearing and doing my little bit of research these last few hours before I came on tonight. I was like, are you really serious? I mean, it has really gotten up there to those folks that they make these statements in public, that they actually blurt it out as a snide remark, us human beings and us workers. And of course, the power of the police power to regulate and control. Um, I swear to God, I'm wondering if she's grown a mustache. Do you hear me? And somebody ought to take a picture of Sotomayor with her little quotes and put a fucking, I'm sorry, put a mustache on her. Do you know what I mean? An Adolf Hitler mustache, because that's like what something he would say. You know, everybody must be for the fatherland, and then the Führer, and the, you know, and she believes that we human beings should be regulated and controlled by police power, and that we are no better than machines. I mean, the implications of that, not only is it unconstitutional and all this other kind of stuff, it's going through my head, and I'm going to have to go outside and go take a walk in the cold to like chill out, because this is like the idea that she would refer to us as human beings is like the rest of it, okay, but the human being part, that's like one of those clues in plain sight that for those who ain't in the know don't know. And for me, sitting here and thinking about that statement and how it was said, I'm like, holy crap, she's an alien. You know, what? And the other guy talking, he must be an alien too. And the other one, oh, holy crap, there's three of them. And there's another one leaning their way. That means there's two guys and two supposedly girls that are, you know, what? You got a meat galore pizza, a local establishment, or uh, one of the franchises. Back when Little Caesars pizzas came out, way back in the day, I was like sold. But I don't know if they have a Little Caesars pizza anywhere around. Um, my brother worked at Domino's for a couple of years in Moultrie, and back then I don't know if it's the same manager or procedure, but they made some really good pies. Okay, I mean they really did, and that's when I got hooked on pineapple. Casey's Pizza. Oh, so more of a local ish thing. I have not heard of it as a chain here. Is the reason I say that, Steve. There's a place down in Tallahassee, if it's still open, and anybody ever gets near Tallahassee, go to it. If it's still open, is oh crap, something decent pizza on Monroe Street, Tallahassee, before you get to downtown, on the right hand side going south. You know, decent pizza. Oh my God. Their large pizza, I am not lying. It's like Q trip. This pizza, I'm not lying, is this big around. I'm not lying. It's not, it don't fit in a regular box, like a big, large pizza box. Now you'd have to take it apart and stack it. They have special boxes for their large pizzas. It covers the whole flipping table. It's delicious. And they've got like special stuff like, you know, oregano and spice and this and sun-dried tomatoes and lettuce, spinach and just and you can make your own combinations and 10 different kinds of cheeses. Oh my God. And the price ain't but a buck or two more than what if you was to get a pizza from Pizza Hut. But you can watch them hand toss it right there, and all the sun-dried, you know, this and the that and the, oh man. You know, if you just want pepperoni, they got that too. But if you want to go off on a tangent with garlic and this and man, my friend Marcia, God love you, and you know she's been gone almost a year now, but used to go down to Decent Pizza once or twice a month, or you know once. once every other month at least, we'd go down to Tallahassee just to have pizza. And when I get my truck fixed, I'm going. And I'm going to sit there and take a picture and go, Martha, wherever you are, I love you. Here I am at Decent Pizza, you know. My friend Tommy, that I've known for quite a while, he still lives down. He's got a house down in Tallahassee and sometimes stays up in Thomasville. But you know, he's one of the ones that turned me on to Decent Pizza. And I was like, it's been down here all this time, and you didn't tell me. You know, all the times I'd been to Tallahassee looking for a decent place to eat, and you say, well, pizza all the time. No, the pizza they make, there are so many different blends and combinations. It's not like well, I had pizza the other day. Well, that's like somebody every time they get pizza getting pepperoni, right? Well, this ain't like that, because every time you go there, you got like 20 different choices, and then you can make your own, mix them, whatever they'll make, however you want them, you know. You can't beat that, and make it right there. You can watch them. So, but anyway, um, oh, it's almost 2:20 again, ain't it? Almost 2:20 again. What did I mean by that? Another night, another 2:20. But anyway, so there's a part of me that's jumping up and down about Sotomayor's comments, and we should be alarmed. And like I said, please, I don't ask you to ever hit the like button or anything like this, but please spread what she said. Or if some news channel or somebody picks it up, then share that channel. You don't have to say nothing. You don't have to get into the argument, but we don't need to let her get away with this. We don't need to let them get away with it, because if we call them out, all of us, the alien folk are gonna go, oh shit, you dumbass, do you know what you said in public? It's like one of the if you remember the series V, right? Think of that, okay? Oh, they look like humans, but they ain't. So they're sitting there telling us all this stuff, and one of the visitors, V, says, well, you humans, you have to think in terms of the way she said it. So, and I mean, and the fact that she used human beings, but in that, is that a psyop? To me, in watching and listening, and I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, that's disclosure that there are aliens in high up in the government. Do you want proof? There she is. And the people that are sitting in there who are talking and spouting the same things she is. Why would any common sense person, let alone a Supreme Court judge, make the statements that these people made today? No, if they're human, okay, but they do not have our agenda in their mind. They've got whatever their agenda is, it ain't ours. I'm just saying, whoever votes that the mandates are good and legal, nah, to the gallows, off with their heads. So what needs to be done is that if they pass it and ignore all of these precedences, there are going to be a lot of lawyers and attorneys and states attorneys and that are not going to let them get away with it. So, and if it is toke time, ain't it? Cheers to you, Barry. Honestly, I hope you feel better. Um, and with this toke, I send cheers and prayers to Barry. But in the grand scheme of this, we got to stay on this one. We don't need to get in trouble about it, but we damn sure don't need to let them get away with it. Repost somebody else or something, or say something to your friends, or put it in a post. Do something. I'm not necessarily say share this one. Share KrisAnne Hall's show about it, absolutely. And I did a DuckDuckGo search before I started the live stream to get her channel up again and to find the places where she had up where I could read from it. So I absolutely stole from her show, which she was listening to it, to the broadcast, and was writing notes down. So, but anyway, Monday or Tuesday, maybe by Wednesday, they should have transcripts out, and then we can really see what was said. I mean, like, and if they changed it, okay, what'll be interesting is for those folks who heard what she said today versus is it going to be that on Monday or Tuesday? They play those games. So if they reprint exactly what she said today, witnessed and heard by a lot of other people, is that what the transcript's going to say when it comes out in the publication? That's going to be interesting. So, good, Barry. Honestly, I almost called you with the duo today, and I was like, I'll warn you before. Like, hey, what you doing tomorrow? Then maybe we'll do but today I was just like, almost just hit the button, and I was like, maybe not. Oh, thank you. I missed it, didn't I? It went right on by. Well, I hit it early, so I'll hit it late. Happy 20 and prayers to Barry right now. Keep feeling better. Woo wee. Oh, Lordy, have mercy. Sativa. Woo. I found a remnant from a couple of months back, and I was like, woo, look at this. Yeah. Sativa. That went all the way down to my toes. What was the name of that show again that you watched? I'm gonna type it in the chat, way up on the chat somewhere. I'm gonna type her name in the chat. Just do a search in on YouTube. She's there. Also, I did DuckDuckGo, and I said SCOTUS today kind of thing, and it went right to her program. She was like at the top of the list. So, but anyway, you were what time? What time today? I think she is an attorney or a lawyer. I get those confused. But her and her husband, I know she is certified as far as, constitutional law and that. And they go around the United States and different places, and speak about constitutional law. And they do a show almost every day on YouTube. Sometimes they're out of town or doing things or whatever, but almost daily they will take a topic. Sometimes her husband is with her, and he loves to go off on a tirade. He was in the military, and and he's married to her, and the constitutional law, and So, but between them, they will get down on some of these things. And for me, they're just across the border down in Florida from me. You got it? Okay. They're straight up people. I mean, she takes the Constitution, she'll take maybe an amendment, whatever's going on, and they'll go through it, and she'll say, this is what it says, and this is what it means, not what these people are trying to interpret. She's really good. And known around the country too for speeches and their conferences and stuff like that on the Constitution and constitutionality. So, but anyway, so check her out. And for those of us, you know, whether we believe in ETs or not, it doesn't really matter. And and they teach not just reading it, but depending on what the current situation is like, listening to the justices, she was like, you know, OSHA's not even is questionable as to whether they're even, you know, whether they can even do what they do now, let alone do that, you know, mandate vaccines. So, but yeah, they read the Constitution. They do all kinds of things. They got a lot of archives on YouTube, and they will do a live show. So depending on what's going on, they'll read out like me. You know, they'll check what's going on in the chat, and you know, so if she's talking about something you want to ask a question, she'll try to answer it. So good people, you know, Southerners. You can tell she's from the Panhandle kind of thing, and but they've done stuff around, you know, Tallahassee, and way back in the day, for those who remember the Malheur incident where they up in Washington, Oregon, I think, where there were quotes hold up out there, and you know the feds told them to get off, and you know they were just camping out there, but they had guns, and Lavoy Finnegan was killed outright by the state and feds, you know, right there in the snow that day. About, you know, in a couple of weeks will be an anniversary of when they murdered him out there on the highway with an ambush. That was just tragic. But she flew from Florida out there to intervene and act as a go-between liaison attorney, and as a constitutionalist say, look, you have a constitutional right, but you're on federal lands, and you know but they have expressed the right that they're going to shoot your ass if you don't come along. And but anyway, so KrisAnne has been around. I learned about her years ago during the issue with the Malheur thing, and was it the Bundys? Anyway, um, a bunch of them went to federal prison, and they let them out and didn't really charge them anything, but they kept them in jail for almost 3 years for fishing and this and that and the other thing. And but it's KrisAnne Hall and other folks with, you know, constitutionalists that kept telling the feds, you just really can't do this. They really didn't do anything wrong. And you're trying to hold them in jail because they were on federal lands with a firearm, which is just like, what? No. And there was nobody there. It was in the middle of winter, and you know they were not trying to intimidate anyone and all this other kind of stuff. And so, but they spent 3 years in jail for it. And Lavoy Finnegan, you know, was murdered in the snow that day. And some of the kids were in the back seat videotaping it, and you could hear the gunshots going off and ricocheting inside the car. They were all ducked down, trying not to get killed, you know, and that went real quiet. Nobody spoke about that, and how they murdered a man and almost wounded a couple of the teenagers who were simply trying to get to the next town. And not good at all. But it's sort of like Ruby Ridge and what they did with, you know, David Koresh and them folks, and it was at Waco when they burned down the Branch Davidian. So that's how the feds look at us. Okay. We are an inconvenience and a pain in the ass, but they just as soon shoot us and burn us out so they don't have to put up with us anymore. But for a Supreme Court justice to call out us human beings as being equal like machines and should be treated as such, that should make a lot of people's eyes go, what? She's inferring that we're robots. And if you were an alien person and you were working with robots or clones or those type of people, then you would be considered one of those workers as part of, the board consort, what? When you're at work, you're like the machine. So you plug in like the board, right? Controlled and manipulated and, you know. So to me, what she said implies more some kind of weird ET like admission. She just admitted, listen here, you human beings. What? You think you're as good as us? I mean, okay. So all desperate attempts to Laura. Yeah, there's a couple of the recent updates in keeping up with stuff. The 19th and the 20th of this month are supposed to be key dates for coming up. That 2/2/2022 is going to be another important date with the Reno bunch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, was she crooked. And the fact that, one of the things, because I watched them, we were watching it live the day they burnt them folks out. And it was like what what the FBI was claiming was happening was not what you could see on the live stream with NBC News. They were saying, well, the FBI says such and such and such, and they got to rush in, and it was like with the cameras are showing David Koresh with somebody by the door, and the next thing you know, they're shooting and things are blowing up, and and off in the background you can hear people screaming and like what? No matter what they had inside that building, here's the thing: no matter what they had inside that building, all they had to do was wait them out. That's all. But they wanted to bring it to, this is what they said on the news. The FBI wants to bring this to a conclusion because they were tired of waiting. Well, what are these guys in a big ass barn out there going to do? You got people around, and what are they going to do? Well, I don't know. They got guns. What are they going to do? Are they going to go invade the next farm over? Are they going to go into town and shoot up the place and rob the bank? What are these people, no matter what religion or what, doesn't matter. This group of people who have weapons, okay, they live on a farm in Texas, right? So who don't, right? One of my friends, she's 13 years old, got is proud that she got her first 20 gauge shotgun. You know, the South Georgia girl. There you go. And Papa's proud, and she's proud. So it's like okay. So, but as we were watching it live on TV, I was like, and unfortunately, it happened on my brother's birthday, April the 19th that year. And we were like, no, that just was not right. But it was Janet Reno that gave the order for them to go ahead and go in because they needed a conclusion. It needed to be resolved. Yeah, when they were throwing flash bombs and grenades, The FBI set the place on fire. You watched it on TV also. So, I mean, Chloe, you say I'm right, but I mean, what that was y'all's impression? I mean, for those, I mean, when I saw Jack Ruby shoot Lee Harvey Oswald there coming out of the police department that Sunday, you know, it was hard to say, nope, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? But you see, my point is with her statement, it includes all of those time, the Janet Reno, the, you know, this and the that. For every time they have made those decisions about us, you know. So this is like David Koresh in the FBI, except with OSHA, it's the whole flipping country. You hear? Well, you know, if you don't do what we tell you, we're gonna come and get you, or fire you, or shoot you, or hold you down, or you know, because it's a mandate, and we consider you a machine, and you know, otherwise you have no value. I'm they actually use that as uh, or usable or whatever, but part of it is still a museum. Well, good. Then people were murdered, period, outright. Some of the stuff that happened way back during the days of Ruby Ridge, for those of us who remember that. What they did with the original Bundys when they were doing the fire and the thing and the this and the that, them feds had no business doing that. Not one bit. Them folks were taking care of what they always took care of as farmers and ranches out there, and the stuff they tried to pin on the Bundys and the original thing and all that is absolute bullshit. Through the own Bureau of Land Management, they didn't break any rules or regulations. They made up shit because they didn't like these ranchers, because they were, you know, they were saying nah, because they, you know, the BLM had ran out all the farmers around them. So there are a lot of people who didn't know the whole story about that, the first Bundy thingy and the cattle and all that. They didn't have all the information. It's us against them. It was the same thing about Ruby Ridge. I'm sorry, not Ruby Ridge, but with the Native Americans when at Pine Ridge up there in South Dakota, and they had that big standoff out there. I can't remember it, but you know, Native Americans are on their own goddamn property, going, you know, no, and the feds going, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, because we're the feds. Oh, because you're a relative of, you know, General George Constert bullshit Custer, will come to the Little Bighorn and we'll have it out again, you know? And wait, oh, talk about overstepping the federal government, right? Or the authority of the police. For me, I have talked about this before, but it's the truth. Back in the whatever, quite a few years back, 80s, early 90s, maybe, but late 80s, early 90s, I was trying to grow some marijuana in my backyard. I was, but it was so dry that year. We were in a drought. I couldn't keep them alive. Was toting water down in the woods and stuff, and I had them in 5-gallon buckets. Well, they were flying around with a Huey helicopter like Vietnam, you know, with the sliding doors open, and a guy sitting up there with binoculars, and guess what? A gun. So, because they were prepared to shoot anybody that they found, because some farmers that some guys who tried to farm marijuana in the farms would put tripwires and homemade bombs and shotguns and stuff like that. So, but here's the thing, if you're fucking around in the private property and you get your leg blowed off because you're where you're not supposed to be, you're trespassing. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, right? But they flew over my place, found these 2, 4, 6 marijuana plants that were drooping and dying in my in 5-gallon buckets, and called in the GVI, who came in, rushed the place, rushed me down in the woods, threw me down in an ant bed and in a briar patch, and just and while the guy sat up there with a high-powered rifle, telling me over a loudspeaker, "Don't move or we will shoot you." And I'm like, I'm unarmed. I don't own a gun. I know how the Viet Cong must have felt, because I'm hiding underneath this tree and this guy's just right there in this helicopter. So the invasion of privacy. Oh, I fucking get it. I do. I fucking get it. So this idea, though, that these people could fly over my property anytime they wanted to, suspicion or not, crash down my driveway and arrest me and throw me down and take me to court. And the best they could do was an ounce of weed. And they never charged me with growing it. And when it got back to the governor, how much money they spent to bust me for an ounce of weed, they got in trouble. But that's not the point. And they don't fly with the helicopters around anymore, because most folks have gotten smart and they grow it indoors anyway. But that's not the point. But invasion of privacy, I'm fully aware of what that means. Uh, Sighted in with a rifleman in the back of a Huey helicopter for growing 6, horrible plants one summer in my backyard. Anyway, and yes, it really did happen. I had to serve a little bit of time, and I had to serve 5 years probation and a bunch of money to the court and to the probation office. But anyway, served my time. Everything's good. Got off a little early with the probation thing. I had to pay the fine off before they would let me off of probation. So, but anyway, all square and love and war and all that kind of thing. But for those folks who are like, well, they can't really listen, you'd be surprised what they can do. Well, but here's a glimpse of what the highest judges in the land think of you and me, and our neighbors and coworkers and other human beings in the plant and the workforce. That should scare it out of everybody. But BLM is killing off the wild horses everywhere. Yeah. When what happened? I missed it. Charles Manson. Oh, yeah. Charlie Manson. Well, see, and I grew up here in Florida where, what's his name that did the killing? Ted Bundy. Bundy was, a frequent of Florida. So there was Charles Manson, and from here around these parts, it was Ted Bundy. I have a load of my head flight at McConnell Air Force Base, in which you crossed the red line, but no one ever showed me where the red line was. I know what you mean. With the chainsaw house, you can see it from the road, but it's like, oh, there was way back in the day down in Donaldsonville, Georgia, which is south this away from me, north of Tallahassee, and from me it'd be like towards the corner of Alabama and Georgia, Florida, that area. Donaldsonville, Georgia. There was a big family murder. Some prisoners got out. They went into one room and shot these two and did this. I can't remember the name, but it was all over the news back in the day. The All Day Family, I think, something like that. but there were people who was just driving by and just you would stop and sit on the road and take pictures of the house off in the distance a little bit. And they were like, um, and there were some people that I knew a few years, just a couple of years ago, who were like, "Do you remember the All Day Massacre thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, what about it?" "Oh, well, where is it? And where's Donaldsonville? And can we find the house? And where's the farm?" And I was like, "Really? Okay, well, it's Donaldsonville's that way, and when you get to Donaldsonville, you just have to ask around if anybody will tell you now, you know. So the best thing to do would be to find old articles, find where they showed because the All Day family lived on what road, and then from there you can kind of pick and choose. But you can, Chloe, I missed what is chained up. I missed it. Oh, it was a cult. Okay. Was yeah. Well, there was a murder right here on almost on my property, right at the top of the hill up here. I can see the light at their barn from here. The one that where the neighbors. Oh, I did a video. I need to upload it of what I was working on today. Some of the foundation work and what it looks like. And anyway, I need to load that later on. So it ain't live. Blood stain still on the concrete. Yeah. But last name of Presley, Roy Presley. Uh, he's been dead now a while, so what difference does it make, right? But and it is the truth. Um, I was as I was leaving for work that day. It's about 10:30, 11, because I worked a split shift. I'm from 12 to 12 kind of thing. So I was there, in the afternoon. Anything broke down in the morning. I was there at lunchtime, and we'd fix it by the afternoon, and then I was there for second shift. Anyway, so I'm going up the driveway, and I see him in his truck pull in his driveway, Roy. Well, him and his missus and three girls, nice ladies, and he's always bitching. His favorite drink was Crown Royal. He had come down here, had gotten my face at my front door here, which ain't nowhere near his house, and getting in my shit and telling me, threatening me. And I was like, dude, you're standing down here threatening me. If I had a gun, I could use it. So, but anyway, he had been drunken and abusive to his wife, and apparently was trying to get to his daughters too, just being mean. I mean, he in the evening times, his he had a dog kennel out back, and he let his dogs out, and they'd come over here and chase my cats, killed a couple of them, and then when I shot at him with my secret shotgun, he come down here and was like, "Dude, man, what are you doing?" And trying to pick me up by my throat, kind of thing. And you shot my dog, and I said, "And your dog killed one of my chickens and two of my cats. I have the right to defend my property down here. You should not let your dogs run free like that." So, but at nighttime, if the dogs were barking 9, 10, 2 o'clock in the morning, didn't matter. He'd come out on the back porch and shoot a pistol at him. "Shut up, you fucking dogs!" Bam, 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 bam. And then woo, 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 woo. You could hear him all over the place, right? So anyway, the day I saw him pull into his yard, I didn't know at the time that she had put a restraining order against him. Now, the shed in the back was his business. He was allowed to go to his business, but not go in the house and to stay away from the house property, but plenty of space between the house and the shop. So The court order said he was allowed to be on the property in his shop, but not in the house. And he busted in the kitchen and got in an argument, started slapping her around, broke her jaw in so many places. My son Samuel was working at the X-ray in the Moultrie Hospital when she came in that night, that afternoon, and her face was literally, it looked like somebody had run over her face. It was smushed. But he backed her into the back bedroom, and she got the 12 gauge out of the closet and killed him dead. So they won't stay in the house, but over a weekend, nobody lives in that house because I honestly believe I have seen his spirit roaming around out here, and he's still angry. You know what I mean? Not when you want to go over and go, "Hey Roy, how's it going tonight?" I still want to kill you, because he said something about that one time. You shoot my dog, I'll just shoot you. My dog's worth more than you. Yep. So if in his mind, his dog was worth more than me or his wife, and he beat the score, damn near to death. Self-defense, you betcha. Look at her face and wonder why she didn't shoot him sooner, kind of thing, before he did that much damage to her. But the fact that there was the damage, it was like there wasn't even a court case. The sheriff just said, "I'm sorry, that's cut and dried." And the relatives lived right here and across the street and one down the street a little bit. And they were severely pissed with the Colquitt County Sheriff's Department that there was not even an investigation. And the sheriff looked at her and looked at the dead body and said, "What case? Self-defense. Period. What? You think it was murder? He tried to murder her. Self-defense. Period." Called the attorney at the thing. "Yep, self-defense. You want to prosecute?" "No." "Okay, done deal." The quiet funeral. Nobody, the family up here was like, "What? She murdered our brother." No, no, self-defense. Sorry. You saw what he did to her. You knew how bad and rough he was. And I'm sorry, but there are some people that, by God, if they keep on, they just deserve that shit. I'm sorry. It was his destiny. But he could have been a better person, though. That's the whole thing. But at every opportunity, he knew it all. There was a time when I first got this property, and the guy that I bought the property from, he came down here, and it was about this time of year, and the water was up in places, kind of sort of like it is right now. But when you get towards the river a little bit, there are some holes that have been little trenches dug out, and you'll be walking along, and it's only like ankle deep or maybe middle of your calf, and then and you step in one of these holes that you don't see because of the water, and you go up to your chest. Literally, boom. And so Jay Tyson was his name that I bought the property from. And so me and Jay was like 6'2". He was let me tell you, I don't say this often, but he was a handsome man. He really was. And not that I'm gay or anything, but he was a handsome man, let me tell you. So, but anyway, and a nice guy, a really nice guy. We wrote out our contract on a napkin, and both of us honored the agreement, a gentleman's agreement, with a shake, a beer, and we shared a joint together right out here out back. So, that's the kind of, like, there you go. But so the next door neighbor, Jay was trying to sell this other piece of property, and the neighbor didn't want it, kind of thing, because it was next to me, because I'm an old hippie, and okay, well, I was a young hippie back then. And so he said, "Well, okay, show me where the property line is down on the river." And I said, "Okay." So we're walking way back there, and it's flooded, and I have walked. Jay told me, he said, "You know how to get there?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It might get to, just below our danglies, maybe our waist, but probably only knee deep, And he said, "Okay, let's go." Right. So off we went. And I was just in shoes and a t-shirt and whatever, and off we went to the river. And so trying to tell this guy who's got a Crown Royal and he's drinking and he's trying to tell us, well, I grew up here and I've been down on this river. And I was like, yeah, but you don't know this spot, I guess. So, but, I told him, I said, don't walk over there. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Jay said, you better listen to him. See, there's one of them times when the nose just goes, whoops. Bless me, bless me. Thank you, thank you. But so he takes a step, he turns around towards me and Jay, and I'm a little further, and Jay's like just behind me. And so Roy looks at us and goes, well, I've been down here and everything. And I said, be careful before you turn around. And I said, there's a hole right there. And you couldn't see it because the water was running pretty damn swift across us, but muddy enough you couldn't see, any holes or anything in the water. And I was kind of feeling along with my feet. I knew by certain landmarks, like there was a palmetto bush over here and a little tree and a thing, and I knew to stay on this side of the tree, even when there wasn't water there, right? Because otherwise you had to walk down this little gully and then right back up the other side. So to skirt the tree to the left was the way I would go anyway, right? Water or not. So, but he was smart, and I was like, Jay, tell him not, to, go left. I know where I'm going, and Jay was like, you gotta listen. Well, the next thing you know, he took one more step, and literally, because it was knee deep water, that's for one, but it was one of them holes that was up to your chest. And because he slipped and went under this direction, he went completely under the water and come back up, sputtering, had lost his drink because he'd had ice and a thingy and whatever that was gone. So he came at me like he was going to take a swing. Why? First thing he says, why didn't you tell me there was a hole there? And big ass Jay stepped in because Roy's he was a big fella. He stepped in between me and him and he said, he told you, Roy, not to step over there. And you insisted. Blah, blah, blah. He's covered in water. It was cold because it was like end of November or December. So it was, this kind of year because it was open and flooded. But when he went under that water and come up and all wet and everything, now that was funny. Sometimes people get what they deserve, even when you tell them. But this idea, though, that this Supreme Court justice so for those of us around, the least we should do is to tell our and coworkers or whatever, and what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Oh, in cold blood. Yeah, I have been around places like that, and I think it's because of my empathy. I got one of them too, Barry, but you got the credit. That's okay. Um, it's too creepy. I've been in some old houses and things and stuff, and um, there was one house in Tampa. It was a really cool old two and a half story. The attic was huge. The attic was as big as my house. Big house, not too far from downtown. And I was working out with if I had followed through on that, I would have made $1 million on that property. because they put a bypass through there a few years later, and they paid big bucks for that house. And I could have paid to have it moved to Georgia if I wanted to. It had 4 fireplaces in it. It was great in Tampa. So, but anyway, that house had some creepy things. So was working with a landowner and contract for deed, pay him cash and keep up. And he was just going to finance the thing, $100 down, $100 a month, and everything was up to me. Fine. And I was just a little kid and a teenager, uh, 18, 19 years old, and really wished I'd followed through on that. I missed big time. But having spent several months in that house and just being there and looking out the window and the architecture and just the feeling of the house, there were some rooms that were just, and anybody that went there, we just didn't like going there. You know, it's like, what do you think about that room? I don't know. I don't like going in there. Okay. None of us knew really what had happened. Then later on, as I was, the landlord was like, I was asking, well, I don't know if I should pay another month kind of thing for the thing. And he's made some kind of statement like, what's wrong? Do you think the place is haunted or something? And I went, what? Well, then later on, a couple of years later, I moved to Georgia into a haunted house, which is that's that other story. But anyway, but so interesting things in the universe. But, you know, as I've talked about, and a lot of other folks too, talk about, you know, language, how folks use language and what they mean by it. And, you know, so I would just say, whatever's going to happen, let's, you know, just keep the story alive and see what happens if anybody else picks it up, or if how much it's covered up or hushed up or whatever, because weird stuff happens, right? So it's just really going to be interesting if they wipe the slate or allow it to be news on Monday. So, my dear friends, I got to go take meds and I got to get something to drink. And 1890, oh wow. I built this house. There wasn't anything here. And my house was haunted for a while. There was an entity that used to go up and down the stairs. I talked about this before, but I basically had battery operated motion detector lights, bottom of the stairs, top of the stairs, and one up over here between the bedroom up there and the top of the stairs. So anywhere I walked, it would come on, and I wouldn't have to turn on a light, and it would only stay on so long, and then it would turn off. So very efficient, very easy, and was not hard on my eyes. And so, but I'd be either down here and sit and watch the TV over here, and the light would go on. And I go, what the hell? The one at the top of the stairs would go on. And then the one I could see through here, this other light would go on. And when I was upstairs, there were times when you could tell the downstairs light, because you can see, you know, by the reflection over here and up in the balcony, that this light would come on. It was like, what? The light's on. And then the top of the stairs would come on. Ain't nobody here. But there was. And there were times when I swear I could see the outline and the facial features of this individual, the color of the hair. And it reminded me of a friend of mine. And I was like, but it wasn't him, you know, but come up the stairs and walk and then just disappear, you know, come up the stairs and walk towards the bedroom but just not going where to go. And there was nothing here before. There was no 2-story house. This was a wheat field. Okay. It was farmland when I bought this place. There literally was wheat here in my front yard. And one day they came and combined it and then it rained and turned my whole field into a great big mud puddle. Hey, Katniss, how are you? You said that because I love going into people's attics. Oh, me too. I'm some of the things that I've got recently, I got out of that guy's attic over near Adel. Sparks. Night, Barry. Rest well. And you never did tell me what time this morning or this afternoon you wanted to do duo. I'm still going to ask you that question later because I know what time I looked at the clock and I was like, So I want to see if your time and my time was anywhere near. Now, see, you heard me talk about this in my reference. If this were a social experiment, which it is obviously a social experience between us, how many of us have had some type of suit that are here in the chat and on this channel? How many of you have had supernatural types of events? And as you talk amongst yourselves, it's like more than not. I would say in other folks' chats or whatever, people go, "What? Spooks? You didn't, anyway." So, oh, okay. That was much later, but I did have you in mind. But it was earlier. It would have been about 9 o'clock your time in the morning, maybe 10. But then later on, I had my phone and was outside working and doing, and I ended up videotaping a little bit of what the porch is looking like. And I was thinking about you then. So, and that would have been around 4 o'clock. So, okie doke. All right. Another time. Sleep well, my friend, and we'll get together again. You was raised in a haunted house, yeah. Well, I wasn't raised in one, but when I moved to Georgia and moved into that big old log house out there, out on the other side of Berlin, that house definitely was uh, haunted because when the house caught fire, it was the ghost that woke me up. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but it was the ghost that woke me up that got us out of the house before the ceiling caved in. So very grateful to old man Croft, who woke me up that night for us to get out, and I mean barely got out with no shoes and a pair of pants, and that was it. But anyway, so but other ghostly things and haunts and stuff. The eerie things the night that I went to town just before Christmas a few years back. It's been at least 10 years that went to my friend Marce's and the um, uh, microwave oven kept going off. 431, 431, open the door, close it. 431, 431, open it, close it. On the third time, 431, we left, and on the way home, that's when we found that gentleman that had that accident where his truck was on fire and he had lost his leg. And I looked at my cell phone at the time when I called 911, and it was 1:34 in the morning. The numbers were reversed. And so spooky things like that, oh hell yeah, in all kinds of different venues, but those are two major ones just right there. So, from my point of belief and stuff that I've seen and witnessed, and orbs and stuff that I've taken pictures of, and fairies and spirit beings, and it's like, yeah, there's some creepy stuff out there. But here's the thing with the creepy stuff that I've seen and some of the and some photographed, I don't really feel like I have been attacked. Now, back when some of these folks had come and were actually trying to conjure bad vibe demons kind of thing to attack us, that was different. There was some scary shit times back then. But to be in the woods around things and, like I take a picture and there's a great big red orb and then another orb nowhere near it. In fact, there would be, 20 or 30 orbs in front of me and off in the distance, right in front of me, click, wait till the battery recharges for the flash, takes a few seconds, and then click it again. And then there's this great big giant red orb sitting right in front of me in the camera and nothing else. Everything else has disappeared. You know, like what? And when you look at the red orb, you go, I don't want to look at it. Like that thing, there's something in there. That thing's creepy. And at the time of taking the photos and stuff, there would be this like cold feeling that you'd get. And as I would take, when I take pictures like that, I take them in succession, like one, click. As soon as the flash is ready, click again. So you can see the movement and timestamp of the fact that at this timestamp there's all these orbs, and then they've moved, they've shifted, or some other ones have come into the camera view. So for me, not these ones, Delaney. These scared the shit out of me. Um, I mean, scared the shit out of me. There was one down on the river one time that had taken these pictures, and I'm holding the camera out from away from my body and taking a picture of me, the edge of my truck, and whatever's out behind me, which is just stark black. There's nothing, right? No moon or anything like that. Is like dark 30 outside. And you can see these orbs literally all around my head and behind me. And I go flash and wait till it goes and then flash it again. And there was this great big red thing that was near my head, and where I was literally surrounded by all these little, the sort of bluish and lighter colors, and all literally all around my head there you could see them. And I was like, crap, they're like licking me kind of thing. But then when that red one came in, and I didn't look at them at the time, but as I'm taking them, because I want to just let whatever's around me take place, right? Oh, take it, look at it, take it, look at it. No, no, no. I just keep it out there, wait till the flash is ready, another one. Wait till another one. Because I want the succession of pictures without me stopping and looking and nah. So, but anyway, in doing that though, the red ones always chased anything else away. Every single time, every single place, different places of different cameras. But the red ones always, the blue ones and the other ones, and then the kind of sort of purple ones did not like the red ones. So wait, I missed what you said. Protecting you was supposed to be spooked. Protecting spirits, protecting whom from what, Pearl? Oh, protecting that area. Oh, okay. Um, but here's the thing. There have been several areas, like down on the river, just arbitrarily, out in the middle of the lake. Okay. There have been places where blue orbs, and then the red one, and everything scatters. Like what? So it's been, I don't know what, if they're protecting, okay, but maybe I will add this. Certain places, like where I like to go down to the lake down here below me, 12 miles from the house kind of thing. Anyway, that I've been down there several times. So that it's like, I can honestly say this, that as I was taking pictures over the last couple of years and all, the red orbs seem to decline. Okay, so maybe they got used to me being there and knew that I wasn't some kind of threat. But over on the Flint River, down over this other place, I mean, anytime red ones ever came into view of the camera, Okay. All the other color ones always went away. So anyway, I don't know what that means, but I will keep that in consideration. Okay. You used to smell ghosts cooking on the wood. I swear to God, the other day, somebody was cooking something here in the house, and there wasn't nobody here. But I was like, I don't know what it is, but it smells good. And I looked around and went, kind of, wait a minute, Oh, listen, talk about children. There years ago, I mean, literally right out back my back door, there was a family here, a young boy and a young girl. And my dear friend Marcy, who's passed last year, we still love you. Um, she could see ghosts and spirits too. So she had told me before I started building on the house, she told me, she said, there's a spirit down here in the woods. And I thought I saw it. And I said, it's a young girl and a not so old mother, but they're dressed in Victorian clothes. And she said, you're right. And I said, so what happened? And she said, well, there was a cabin or something back over this way towards the old roadbed. And they were basically murdered out here and I come to find out that it might have been me previously. And so, but that this, Marcia told me, she goes, the little girl does not like you at all. And the mother's always like keeping her away and protecting. And I said, okay. So then one day I'm sitting here about where I'm at now, listening out the window. And she's out back. She's like 5 years old, 6 years old, something. She might have been in like kindergarten. I don't think first grade, but anyway, young. And out there, and I could hear her talking. She goes, well, I don't know. He's not a bad man, and blah, 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 and this and that. And I was like, who's she talking to? And Marcia had been outside down back where the fire pit is and was listening on the downstream end. And she's having a conversation with the little ghost girl, and they're having tea. And I look out the window. Now, Corey can't see me because she's got her back turned. And so, but she's having tea with this entity that I had two logs, flat logs that came like this, right? And she's on this one and the ghost is over here. And so they're having tea. And so all of a sudden, and I mean, I just barely peeked to the side of the window to see what's going on. I can see Marcia down two stairs and sitting in a chair watching. And all of a sudden, Corey just whips around and looks at me and she goes, don't talk anymore to the entity. And then just like, oh, and just pretends that, And later on, I said, what the was that? She goes, well, Corey can see the ghost too. And she sees the mother, she sees the little girl. So every afternoon or whatever, Corey had come home from, preschool and go out back and play with the little ghost girl, you know, right here on the property. But the really strange and weird thing is that down here at the bottom of this hill, I've been all through these woods and stuff, and there is no foundation. There's no remnants of any house or cabin or anything being down here where I'm at. And it was a farm. And but where these two ghost ladies, and here's the thing, over the years, having my fire pit back here, having a fire sitting around, and I've had three other people besides Marcia and the little girl, Corey, who have seen the same girl and the mother down here and along these woods. One of my friends, handlebar mustache, we worked together, a machinist, a really nice guy, been in the Navy like 20 years, retired. Anyway, come down here, and one night he got really drunk, and he grabbed me by the shirt, and he goes, "God damn it, David, how come you did? How come you never told me that you've got ghosts down here, and I've seen them several times, and you've never said a word to me?" And I said, "That's because I can't see them, but I can feel them at times." And I said, "And they don't like me." He goes, "Well, I don't know if they like me neither, but damn it, they scare the shit out of me. And there's one right over there right now." And went into this thing, and I was like, "Oh, holy crap, you know?" So um, other people have seen these two entities here on my property at different times in different situations. Usually it was in the evening time, but that was because in the evening time we was cooking out and having a fire and sitting around having a drink or whatever. And damn, it's been another hour, ain't it? But but to that point, I forgot about those ghosts, you know. And then for me and my neighbor, who we chatted about this, I said so in that video I did in the woods the other day. I said over there in this clearing, kind of sort of, is where me and my neighbor both have seen, and other people have seen this portal kind of thing just, and he has seen it from his side in about the same location where I've spotted, and other people who saw it with me. So we both agree there's some kind of portal down here in the backyard, you know, and which I found interesting because Ricky is a very practical down home country boy, lives down here in the swamp, but not necessarily a person that you would think that would, number one, understand or discuss. Not that I don't mean him that he's not stupid or anything. That's not what I mean. But down home country folks sometimes aren't talking about portals and spirits and stuff like that. Is my point. So, but when it was mentioned and discussed, he was like, "Yeah, I saw it." And we had this conversation. I was like, "Yeah." So I consider him very astute. You know what I mean? Not everybody is willing to talk about it. Not everybody, if they saw something, would admit that they thought they saw something or did see it. You know what I mean? So, but that I got a neighbor that has conferred, and like, yeah, I seen it too. Like, whew, I know there have been a couple times I was high when I was down there and seen it, but uh, there were times I was down there and I wasn't high when I seen it. So, but anyway, the fact that he has noticed it on from his perspective on his side, from because it's near our property line, and so if he saw it from that side, then and described it much in the same way. And I said, like, right over there, yeah, and it was near, yeah, and you saw it from the, yeah, and I'm like, holy crap, you know. And we might have been a little bit right over there. Well, okay, I would agree with that because it was never exactly like in the exact same spot because there are trees there, and it would be between two trees kind of thing. Sandstone. They'll talk about moonshine jugs. I got a couple of them too. But anyway, there are times when I have held objects back in the day when I was practicing the impact path thing by holding them and imagining and what's going on. And I was pretty damn accurate without any kind of training. I just kind of went with what I felt or saw or whatever. And the people that gave me the objects were going, "How'd you know that? Have you been casing my house?" I got accused of trying to steal something one time. And I was like, "Nope, I just feel this." And I've had objects before that somebody gave me or whatever, and I just absolutely had to get rid of them. Couldn't hold on to them. Didn't want to possess them. Didn't want them in the drawer. I had a ring one time that I was like, that some bitch just had to go. And I liked the ring, but that some bitch had to go. And it did. And at a weird time in the middle of the night, and I ran it up a flagpole in Florala. No, I'm sorry, Florala, Alabama. Anyway, so touching things and having imprints, images, or whatever has been an interesting sideline for me along the way too. And I just know that the people I've been with at the times that they would hand me something and I would try to pick up whatever vibes, right? That there'd be stuff that there'd no way I would have known about the object or the person that I saw holding it or whatever. There'd be something in there that people would go, now, okay, how'd you know that? I got it from, hanging on to this. So, not everything I'd ask about or whatever. Well, I get a feeling like this. What about this? Okay, all right, never mind. Let me change hands, and I get a feeling of I don't know a sailboat or something or whatever. A sailboat, yeah. I see a sailboat and something, and a guy with a hat and a thing. Oh my God, that's such and such, and what color? That's a blue and white stripes, with a little sailor cap on. What? Something like that, right? And it would be a watch or a this or a that, not necessarily having anything to do with the ocean, but it was somebody that sailed a lot. And there was one of those instances, and the person was like, holy shit, nobody knew that, like what? I've seen outlines of ghosts. Mr. Croft, who was in the rocking chair, uh, he made himself visible the night he woke me up to get out of the burning house. So paranormal and stuff like that absolutely exists, and for me, not every one of them was scary. I've had a few scary incidents, but let me tell you, some of the times when the ghost pops up or does what that thing, and you go, "What the hell?" That can be unnerving because of the surprise, not necessarily that it's a ghost or an entity or something like that. Now, if it's a monster, run like hell, right? But if it's just like what the, just calm down, be still, because if it was going to eat you, you'd probably be dead. So calm down, see what's going on, because if you're supposed to be dead, I mean, eat, you know what I mean? You would have already run or crapped yourself. So just hang on, and whatever it is that might be there, you still got a chance to run. But if they got your scent, you ain't got a chance in hell if you think that's what's going to happen to you, right? So best thing to do is just be still and take a deep breath and try not to freak out. Too bad. By someone important. When I was at Andersonville, sitting on the side of the Andersonville prison from the Civil War, there were some gruesome sights that I saw and felt and smelled just sitting up on the hill, which would have been just to let's see what side. I think just to the east of the eastern pegged wall kind of thing. But being there at Andersonville prison, where all those folks were for them years and the suffering and the everything, I was it's just a field now that they mow, but there is still blood and stuff in that field where all those men stayed, and it's still hard to imagine. But I sat on the hill and found this spot, and it was like I was just walking, and then it said, "No, sit over here." And I was like, "Well, okay." And it was one of them little spiritual things, like, "Okay, Dave, now move a little to your left." And I found this little piece of root sticking up, and it was like a piece of it was a piece of fat lighter, and it was down in the grass, and it was like, "Some bitch, this, it's just fat lighter." And somewhere I think I still have it, But I grabbed a hold of that piece of fat lighter root and I just broke down in tears. And I sat there on that hill, and it was like when I picked it up, I could see the smoke and the little campfires and all the little places and all the stuff there on the hill. And I was like, oh my God. It was like that little piece of fat lighter had a picture of what it was like. It still comes to me at times, just that feeling of, I don't know. When I picked it up, it was almost like I felt like that I had been there. And there's several things in my life that I feel like I was around somewhere in the Civil War. I'm not sure if I was a Southerner or a Northerner, but I was in the Civil War. If I was inside the prison, that meant that I was a Yankee in the Southern Territory. So for me, it would kind of make sense in that I feel like Ohio in the north, and you know, had I been born as a Lee, I would have been born in Hazard County, Kentucky, and not Cincinnati, Ohio. And my name would be Lee and not Null. So, circumstances of birth and marriage and age and all that. But to the point, but that's what it was. And that's what it would have been had situations been slightly different. Um, so there is that in people's lives, I guess is what I mean. But there are memories and things, of the Civil War that I've watched it. I've been places down here in the South that you could just hear the cannon fire kind of thing. And up here for the 4th of July and for the first New Year's Eve. A lot of the folks up here now, they, middle aged with kids, and they're buying fireworks and shooting them off, and the echoes ring up and down the valley here, at the river. And man, it was like it sounded there for a moment like we were under attack. The way them booms and the echoes, and having been to Andersonville, I used to do puppet shows there, and they would have a reenactment in the spring and also in the fall. And they'd shoot off them showing up big cannons, and it would echo up and down that valley that's through there. And you really get a sense of what the Civil War would have been like, firing cannons and shot and the smoke and the confusion. And oh my God, oh my God. Thank goodness we aren't going, we have, knock on wood, we don't do that again, like shape shift while running. Yeah, tried to make it seem like it was at a funeral. The person who died, picking my head of them as a child full. Yeah, one of them little duckies. Yeah. I remember them. So spirits and ghosties, you know. Um, we all it's I find it very interesting, like I said earlier, and as we've been talking, I was like, oh wow, yeah, there was that ghost too, and oh wow, then there was the time at that other house. Oh yeah, and then there was the time I was in Alabama at a supposedly haunted house, and we're sitting in the living room, right, and talking to the lady, and I'm there to do puppet shows in Eufaula, Alabama, right? And beautiful old Victorian home there. They got some beautiful old houses in Eufaula, much like Thomasville does, and some other towns too. But anyway, it did remind me of Thomasville, some of the houses there in Eufaula. And so big, nice house, and we got nice big bed upstairs and everything. And so I'm sitting there. We got there early. Next day, the following day was our day. We're talking about stuff, and I mentioned something about ghost or whatever, and I said, um, "Have you had any unusual things or whatever?" And she looked at me, and I said, "Well, I have been an amateur ghost hunter for years, and I've known some other places in Alabama." And I talked about it, and I said, "I'm just curious. You don't have to talk about it." She goes, "Oh no," she goes, "You see them two candlesticks right there on the mantle?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, the ghost does not like them like that. And I looked at her and I said, "What?" She goes, "Every time I put them like this, there was a mirror above this mantle, and it wasn't a fireplace, but there was a heater in it then, but the fireplace, the mantle and everything was still there, right?" And she said, "So every night, just it's sort of been like a trick, something." She goes, "Like clockwork, I come in here and I take these two candlesticks and I move them in close like this." And I think there was a clock or something, a little clock in the middle. And she'd move them in like this. She goes, sometimes during the night, she said, "I have come in here at different times, not really sneak in, but kind of sneak in to see if the candlesticks have been moved, because they normally sat out here towards the more the edge of the frame of the mirror. There was a synchronicity on the mantle, right?" So she said, "I just put them in like this, and then later on I'll come back." And she goes, "Both of the candlesticks will be back over here, this far apart." Well, it's actually farther than that, but instead of being like this, it'll be out here. Anyway, and she goes, "Don't know who it is. They've never done anything. And whether they're lit or not," she goes, it's not like I light them all the time." She said, "But, I'll just put them close and come down in the morning or whatever, and they'll be separated again." So, but anyway, an old asylum. Oh, holy crap. I've been to one with people in it, and that was crazy. I've seen a shapeshifter in real life that changed. Though I were completely black for a while. Second, well, when you see something like appear and then disappear, you know, one time, maybe twice, scary as crap. All right, my dear friends, I love you all. I haven't really had supper. I just got on here because I was so cranky about this thing earlier. So, but anyway, so well, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe, because there's some strange stuff going on, and certain things we need to keep an eye on. And I want to keep them just, you know what I mean? If they, I just, there are a lot of things they say and do. I don't want them to get away with this one. I don't know. Maybe I'm picking you know, pick what battle you choose, right? Well, this one about telling us human beings that we can be mandated by the police power to be regulated. I'm sorry, that gets that gets me. I mean, I ain't necessarily ready to go pick up a gun or nothing, but I ain't going to shut up about it until somebody picks it up. If somebody don't pick it up, I'm going to start sending emails to news outlets and whatever and going, "Why are you people not carrying this?" And bring it up to other folks. One, for example, that they came up this weekend, and it's Mike Huckabee show, and he does a live stream on YouTube, and he does little things during the week. Well, he was the ex-governor of Arkansas, and I think it was his daughter who was the chief of staff for Trump there. But anyway, but he's got a good sense of humor. He's a good country boy, and Republican or Democrat, he is a Republican, I do believe. But Republican or Democrat, he's got a good sense on him. And I'd be curious as to what Mike might say about Sotomayor, because those folks, they're very astute about things. So anyway, the next few days, let's see what happens. In the meantime, I will continue to pray each and every day, just like Duggar and I go out to put our feet on the ground outside, that we continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings out there in the universe, and sometimes in craziness too. And in that law of three, which should be important to you and me, is that I will continue to pray, and I do each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And my apologies for getting on my little soapbox tonight, but doggone it, this one just really nagged me. It's like that old farmer that went before the judge and he said, Mr. Smith, I can't give you a divorce based on the fact that your wife is a black woman. And he looked up and he looked at the judge and he goes, Judge, I ain't married to no black woman. Well, and he said, well, it says here that you want a divorce because your wife's a nagger. And he goes, yeah, she is a nagger. She nags about me coming home late. She nags about me smoking cigars. She nags about me putting my feet up on the couch. Of course she's a nagger. That's why I want a divorce, Your Honor. Boom, he gave it to you. So, but anyway, there is that misinformation. And did I hear that right? So, but anyway, um, continue to accept and receive, y'all. And this is just going to be a fun one to keep an eye on. Good night, Steve, Chloe, and anybody else that's out there that I missed. Please be safe, okay? I've heard a whole entire battle at the house. Oh, yeah? There is, I've talked about this before. So there was an Indian chief or a very important brave buried at the top of my driveway. I'm sorry, driveway, of a property, on where my neighbor's property is, where I want to be buried, because he's found 175 arrowhead spear points all in this one decorative spot. I mean, literally just like 10 feet over the line. And native folk would do that, um, near any uh, sacred or holy or brave or a chief or something of a tribe. There's no other way that somebody just had all those stuff up there. And it's right up there at the top of the hill, which is another reason why I feel like I'm supposed to be here. And interesting that I want to get buried up there. I don't know if he's for real buried up there. I haven't dug. But they used to do things. For example, the road is cut right through there. And white folks used to like to do that, like to desecrate, so there might have been a monument, some stones or something over there. But the arrowheads and all the spear points and everything had been covered, as an offering to the Pharaoh, sort of thing, an offering to the deceased uh, chief or whatever. Katniss, there you are. Good night. Yep, it's 3:45 a.m. in the morning time here, um, on South Georgia Radio. You're sitting with Hawkeye, Two Feathers, and Friends, and it's been a long day for me. Been a good day, getting things done. I need to go outside and check the temperature because I will show you my tomato plants when I upload this video from what I did outside today, and it's getting a little nippy, and it's 36 degrees, and I got a little piece of plastic I'm going to go outside and toss over my tomato plants, so they don't get nipped. But anyway, I love you all. Be safe. And I still haven't forgot y'all about doing, a card reading for the first of the year. I'm overdue for doing a reading for everybody, and I wasn't going to do anything tonight, but this came up and it just, now I need to shut up and go outside and walk around and cool off. So yes, Steve, thank you. Katniss, uh, y'all be safe. Thank you for showing up and paying any bit of attention. Yeah, it's I think it says 38. I'm gonna go outside. That's on the computer that says Megs. I'm gonna go outside and check my thermometer. But anyway, y'all be safe, okay? And I'll be talking to you soon. But please, I'm gonna say it one more time. Tell somebody about this craziness, will you? Just say it. I love you. TTFN, and cheers from South Georgia. We love you. Cosmic hugs. And until next time, Ween and Bob, we love you. We do. Okay. Keep up the good work, everybody.